Willie, I'm adding you as a co-host because I can. I'm a dictator like that. Stu's up in here. It's Fool and Friends happy hour. Come on, get in here. Post your drinks.
Yeah,
or boilers or whatever.
no, that's
JS posted.
that's my well house. You had me stumped. I didn't know what to put on. That's the best.
All right, looks like Willie and Jack should be co-hosts. JS, you in here? Can I hear anything? Is anybody talking? Willie.
I was talking.
Wait a second.
Can you hear me?
Dang it. My headphones aren't working. 1 second. Let me check something out. Technical difficulties already. Damn, why the fuck don't these work? Can you guys hear me? Hello? Ryan's up in here. I swear to God. Can you guys hear me? Willie gave me the thumbs up. Why don't my headphones work on this? I do not get it. Somebody talk to me.
It's like a Scott Adams startup.
What's up?
It's like a Scott Adams startup.
I know, right?
He always has technical difficulties.
It's like technical difficulties. My microphone. Let me check to see if that's working. You guys are fucking with me.
Makes it right.
What the hell? Why can't... I swear to God, like sometimes my headphones work, sometimes they don't. If I can find... Oh, this is so annoying. I'm not going to be able to do this if I don't have actual headphones working. Because I'm not talking into my earpiece. That'd be a disaster. 1 second. Seriously? They worked last time. What the hell? Un segundo. I forget where my actual headphones are. Let me see if I can go to my car. You guys can talk amongst yourselves while I do this if you want. I saw Ryan's a speaker, Willie's a speaker, Jack's a speaker. I'm basically not.
If you're joining, Fool's just looking for his headset. He can't hear us. So we got to give him some time to fumble around.
I think I got it. All right, how about that? Somebody come in. I think that's
testing.
Let's go. All right, here we go. I think I can talk now. You guys can hear me?
Okay. Yep.
All right, sick. All right, well, welcome to Fool and Friends Happy Hour. Administrative stuff first. I basically did... My subscriptions are live, but I don't really give that much of a shit about them. But if anybody wants to... promote anything they're doing, whatever they're doing, threads, anything that doesn't have anything to do with Twitter, whatever. My subscriptions are there. They're only like $3 a month. If you want to subscribe, Every Friday there'll be a new subscription who I'll basically do whatever you want, because it's not about me, it's about you guys, because I honestly don't even want to do any work on this website. But if you guys want to promote something, you can subscribe and that'll do it. Like Jack, is your real name Jack? JS?
It is. It's
Okay,
Jack.
that's what I kind of figured. All right.
Yeah.
So Jack was one of my first subscribers. So today he was like, I just want to get to 1,000 subscribers. I'm like, oh yeah, we can do that. If he wanted anything to be retweeted, whatever. What I really would like to do, if like Elon for X, if he would he has this like delegation option. But if I delegate like another account to be on my account, then they can like read my DMs and stuff like that, which I wish they could just like only retweet stuff for me or just write posts. But if you read my DMs, like I have like journalistic sources in there, which I definitely don't want people looking at that. So if he changes that, that's what I would like to do. So I don't really even have to do anything. I don't like if somebody wanted me to retweet something, somebody wanted me to post something, there's no middleman. You guys could just do it yourself. But that's what I want to say. Jax was first today, and then next week it's going to be Defy or Froggy. I forget what it is. That's about it. But I hurt my foot today, so I figure we just have a little chat here. I know Ryan's in here. I wanted to catch up with him on some of the stuff he's doing, and then Willie's here. But Jack, the floor is yours if you wanted to say anything.
Yeah. Thanks, Fool, for the boost over 1,000.
My pleasure, of course.
This deal is sort of like a homework assignment. I'm not a big threader, and I tried to find something.
Me neither, honestly.
Well,
I don't like doing it. I hate doing it, but sometimes I had to do it. Yeah,
I'm more of a reactor and quick on the draw sometimes.
There we go.
But thanks for the boost.
Absolutely.
But since I did have a prepared question, and I don't know whether this has been covered before, but since I'm about to lose my earphones too, my thing's starting to complain. But real quickly, since we have Undead and you here,
sure.
Where have y'all worked out between you where your lines of thinking harmonize? If in terms of Undead's concerns about DNC and the Georgia Tech researchers, and your Guccifer crossover with what it was the guys that stole the NSA stuff.
Shadow Brokers.
Shadow Brokers. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely crossover. I'll bring Ryan in, but that's still something I tug on all the time. We're in another group chat. I know, like Swamp Killer. I don't know if he's in here, but he made a thread about something sort of related to this yesterday or the day before. But
is he a new guy? Is he a new guy?
No.
He with a different name.
Is an old guy with a different name because he was working on some of this stuff long before. But so yeah, it's not his first rodeo out here. But yeah, the crossover, there's something definite there. And well, I mean, it's not definite. Like all these articles came out that, there's these ties between, well, actually Empty Wheel came up with this, that she had a source that said there's ties between the guys who released Shadow Brokers and Guccifer 2.0, which I've seen it too. And even like the language and stuff like that. But the whole Shadow Brokers thing, like completely, which is like one of the biggest kind of breaches of the NSA or like even our government of all time, but that nobody talks about it anymore. But like, there's a couple stories that like potentially like some Russian guys use like Kaspersky software to hack into this guy. Like, I don't even know how to say his first name, Mr. Pho, to take some stuff off his computer. He was indicted for taking classified information out of the NSA. He worked for TAO, which is the what's it called? Anyways, it's like the elite hacking group of the NSA. And he had that stuff on his computer. He brought it home supposedly to work on it because he wanted to catch up on work. And that stuff supposedly was taken off his computer by somebody who hacked into there and then released. and then people used that software to hack and cause like the WannaCry hacker thing that was supposedly blamed on North Korea or whatever, but that affected like a bunch of computers, hospital computers, that caused them to crash, caused a lot of controversy. But with Ryan, I mean, he'll update us on this. The same guys, like the Georgia Tech guys, were obviously looking into the hack of the DNC, but they're also looking into the hack of shadow brokers, and we know that pretty much. Hal Martin's another story where he was indicted for hoarding NSA classified information at his home, but supposedly he had no relation to the shadow brokers, which I don't really believe. But that story is still out there. Nobody knows what happens. But they, like the guys who were prosecuting Hal Martin and the stuff he took from the NSA, are the same guys that they worked with the Georgia Tech guys. So I don't know if Ryan, you want to get into that, but you might have had some stuff recently, right? I saw one of your posts.
Yeah, I did. I did have a couple new documents came in.
And I'm not sure how elegantly I explain that, because like I'm just saying words that most people don't really know what the fuck I'm even talking about. But I'm not the greatest like presenter of stuff that's just like randomly going up in my mind. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and I mean, first, congrats on 1,000 followers, Jack. To be honest,
That a baby?
I did not know that you were the one that went and scraped Danchenko's Facebook. I was always asking Fool, like, did we have any more screenshots on that? So I just saw that thread earlier today. So
really I got a bunch, and then Jack got a bunch back then. Yeah, it was a group effort.
I mean, that's like crucial work. So that was really good, Jack, and everybody that was involved in that. As far as like the shadow broker stuff, I mean, it seems to be part of a larger sort of effort around the whole, Russiagate saga, and that goes back to Bittner, and just the fact that Bittner kind of threw it out there as like an enticement, and then he turned around and gave some dossier type materials instead. That sort of demonstrates that there might be some type of connection between the shadow brokers and sort of a larger Russiagate scheme. Now that particular episode doesn't directly connect back to the DNC hack, but Fool's right. I mean, there are strong indications that there is quite a bit of crossover between Guccifer 2 and the shadow brokers. So I'm fully on board with Fool on that. And then on the Georgia Tech side, I mean, I have to be careful, but we have indications and emails that we've already had for a long time that these guys were actually investigating the shadow brokers, and in addition to investigating the DNC hacks. That's pretty interesting. And then just in the last couple of days, I got a couple other emails that just further substantiate that. Like one was just literally like sharing a link to a Wikipedia page about the Equation Group, which is the segment of the NSA that had its cyber tools stolen. So
yeah, so Equation Group is TAO, which is, can somebody like remember what that is? TAO, what is that? Something access operations, something I can't remember. Tailored access, access operations or whatever. But yeah, Equation Group,
yeah. So that's pretty interesting. So if it does come out, if there is some nexus there to, the DNC hack being a false flag operation, you'd have to kind of look at some people that have ties to the NSA as well. And that's pretty convenient to say, because we have a lot of people that we're sort of looking at right now that do have those ties to the NSA. And that's not to implicate any specific person as being involved in either episode as part of like a criminal conspiracy or anything. But it's certainly trending that way. I don't know. We can talk more about some of that other stuff, but as far as your question, I think that pretty well covers it. I think Fool and I are on the same page.
Yeah, like the hacktivists, like their behavior is very similar. I don't know, like if you know about Sergei Mikhailov, like basically the one of our assets in the FSB, who was working for like maybe was behind like APT-29, which isn't Fancy Bear. It's Cozy Bear. It's the FSB side of it. But
right, and he kind of faded into a corner. You know,
yeah.
that was interesting.
I've been thinking more because I mean, once Swamp Killer posted that again, that he was like an asset of Gregory Crabb, who's like one of the postal worker inspectors or whatever. I don't know. Like for me, I don't know if he like might have been involved in that hacking operation of pho or whatever. I don't know. I need to think about it more, but all that stuff lines up so spectacularly. Like I made like a thread about that a long time ago when Goosifer 2 just signed off. He was like January 12th or 13th or whatever it is, 2017. He was basically like, I'm done. I'm out of here. And then basically Shadow Brokers did the same thing, but Shadow Brokers came back. I don't know. Something has to be done about Shadow Brokers because that was one of the biggest stories and biggest hacks ever of the NSA, and then it just completely disappeared with Hal Martin, which I think Hal Martin was involved, but because he had this material, and then he was messaging like Kaspersky Lab members, and supposedly the Shadow Brokers guys used Kaspersky Lab, and then Mikhailov was indicted or like arrested in Russia with a co-conspirator, Ruslan Stoyanov or something like that, who worked for Kaspersky. So there has to be something connected there, but nobody ever has figured it out. And I've talked to tons of people that maybe know a little bit more about it, but the word is mum or whatever that saying
and
is.
that was in December of 2016, wasn't it? He was arrested. I mean, right after the election.
Around there, yeah.
You know,
it was before for sure. Like all those guys, like Shaltai Boltai,
Mikhailov's entire.
ICA. Yeah. Mikhailov's entire like group got scooped up. The guys underneath him, Dmitry, whatever his face is, but yeah. And then all the guys like Alexei Belin, and then what's his name, Nikolai Kislitsyn, and then that other guy, what's his name, Evgeny Nikulin. Yeah, he got caught in Prague. Like, and all those guys supposedly work for Mikhailov. So, like, I've posted about this like a couple of times when like Brennan like called the head of the FSB. Then after that, it seemed like everybody just started getting arrested. It's like the entire CIA operation got folded up.
Right.
But nobody ever reports on that anymore, and nobody knows what happened. But Shadow Brokers is one of the things that I want to figure out. I mean, along with Goosifer 2.0, because I think they're sort of aligned, but nobody talks about it anymore.
Jim Comey knows what happened, doesn't he?
Yeah, maybe. I don't even know. I don't know if Jim Comey knew what was happening about a lot of that shit, but he's a fucking idiot. So
yeah, let's start there.
Yeah,
that was my question. Thank you.
Yeah. I know Willie's a co-host. What's up, Willie?
Hey.
What's up?
I'm good. I'm just trying to like hold.
What time is it over there?
12, almost 1. Yeah, it's just like midnight-ish.
Cool.
But I mean, I looked at my phone.
You just muted yourself. All right, Ryan. I brought you in here to describe what the hell you're up to, if you can go into any detail.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we've done like a Russiagate Spaces in like forever, so it's probably
I haven't done one. I haven't been involved in one for like years, I feel like. So
yeah,
you can tell like I don't remember the names anymore, but I guess I've been doing other shit. But if somebody reminds me, I can pull it back up.
Yeah, I mean, like high level, like I did the sort of the collab with Matt
Yep,
probably a couple months ago now, and basically I gotten another document from Georgia Tech or from Georgia somewhere, in that it basically went a little bit further, and we've had documents. I mean, even going back to working with Margot, it was pretty clear that they did something with the DNC hack. We just didn't have clarity on exactly when it started.
Yep.
But now, basically, with the document that I saw, and then Senator Grassley released a letter, and it was sort of hidden because he built on he was building on the work of Paul, I think, actually, sort of one of the emerging sleuths, and he had come up with some documents about Antonakakis doing work on the RNC and the DNC networks and sort of state elections and stuff. And then like hidden in this like letter that Senator Grassley released, like within this paragraph, they linked to a previous letter that DARPA had provided in September of 2022. And for some reason, it never got released until just this, 6-7 months ago. And in that letter, DARPA admitted that Manos Antonakakis and David Dagan had drafted an attribution analysis on the DNC hack in August of 2016, like a day before the CrowdStrike's first report was dated, and like weeks before the CrowdStrike reports even went to the FBI. So, it was clear that they were working on a DNC hack. And then in the letter I got from Georgia, it said that they had provided work on the DNC hack to the Special Counsel Mueller and the Department of Justice, and they sent those files via DARPA. So it's like weird because DARPA had like originally to Dunleavy when he reached out, DARPA had denied like working on the DNC hack with these guys or whatever. So basically, like I have a few different FOIA lawsuits that are out there. One's coming up for summary judgment here in a few weeks, and basically I'll be able to prove that documents exist, so they can't invoke Glomar, and then we'll be able to actually fight about the documents themselves. So I'm working on attribution documents. The 302s from Danchenko are going to be in that, and then just recently in a FOIA case against the National Archives, they actually noticed the President Obama, under the PRA on 2 of the requests in December, which means those are going to be published in March. And then a bunch of other requests to Obama are actually getting noticed in February. So they're going to be available in May, because there's a 90-day period where President Obama has to object to their release under the Presidential Records Act. And then if he does object, then the privilege actually goes to President Obama or President Biden to invoke executive privilege over him. But we'll see, because the indications they actually gave me are that there's thousands of documents concerning the cyber researchers that actually went to the White House, and in particular Susan Rice. Apparently, on just reading the documents, there's a lot of documents that went to and from Susan Rice concerning the cyber researchers specifically. So Rodney Joffe, Tejas Patel, Angelos Karamitis, who I included as intermediaries at DARPA. Yeah, so there's
I think it's Tejas in Indian, but yeah, I like the Spanish
nice
pronunciation.
There's like 1,100 files, and like a couple hundred classified files going to Susan Rice, which is just really interesting. Obviously, you get that puts you inside the White House. So then I got I got motivated, I guess, and in early December I flew to Washington D.C. Like I left at like my flight took off at 5 a.m. and I spent the entire day there, and I took a red eye back. And basically, I filed this application pursuant to local rules 57.6, 6.1, and federal rule 6E. Basically, there's some exceptions that allow the release of grand jury material. And I basically filed an application. It is sealed, so I can't give you specifics on it. But basically, I would say very generally follows a lot of the materials that I've found, and there might be a couple new points in there that I haven't been able to talk about publicly, but very generally, a lot of it's been what I've.
So describe which case you're trying to intervene in on the grand jury.
Well, I'm not necessarily intervening in a case. I'm sort of piggybacking off the Netiko show case, whatever. I can't pronounce his Russian name, but basically, it's the big case that Mueller filed against the 12 Russians that allegedly hacked the DNC, and basically, so that because there's no judge assigned to that got routed to the chief judge of the District Court of DC, which is Judge Boasberg. And so I had my first filing. It was 35 pages. The government just filed a few days ago, and it was kind of an interesting filing. Like what they didn't say I was wrong, which I found pretty interesting, because they motioned for delay, and they said, well, we have to go talk to Special Counsel Mueller all their people about this stuff because we just don't know. And then they came back and they didn't even discuss the substance at all. So that was pretty interesting. And they kept it to be like a legal filing where they're saying, well, no, he doesn't really get to have access to this stuff. But I'm actually pretty hopeful because the cases they cited didn't hold what they're trying to say that they did, in my opinion. So Monday I filed a response to that, and it's with Judge Boasberg now, and we'll see. There might be a potential that he might do something with it. He might grant the release. He might have follow-up actions. I just don't know. So those are sort of the developments over the last couple months.
Sweet. So, like, basically for you guys, like, if you remember in Mueller, he indicted the IRA, which is like the Internet Research Agency, which were a bunch of the guys who did the memes or whatever, who was run by the late great Prigozhin, supposedly, whatever, Putin's butcher. But if you guys remember correctly, they actually fought that case, and then Mueller ended up dropping it because their evidence relied on probably foreign intel, but also that they couldn't prove any connection between the Russian government and this IRA agency. So they basically dropped it. And remember, like, Mueller was actually reprimanded when he came out and said, oh, this was a Putin connected like agency. Like, it was basically Putin ordering this IRA thing, where there's actually no evidence that the government was running this. But Netikshow, which is the 12 Russian hackers who supposedly hacked the DNC, the GRU hackers, nobody ever fought that claim. So Ryan's trying to get the grand jury information that actually went into that indictment, because that indictment's kind of sparse. We don't have much of the evidence that underlies that indictment, which our hypothesis, whoever, is that a lot of the attribution work could have came from the Georgia Tech dudes, which there's evidence for that, obviously. So we're trying to get that grand jury, or I'm not. Ryan's trying to get that grand jury information. Is that correct? Basically the idea?
Yeah, that's the idea. A lot of arguments around that, but yeah, I mean, I have source documents, and I'm basically just calling bullshit. I'm calling bullshit on the hack. I'm calling bullshit on the attribution, and there's just so many weird things that happen, and sort of the default that I've adopted is everything that's been fucked up in Russiagate has been, turned out to be connected to Hillary Clinton. And then you come to the DNC hack and you realize, people connected to Hillary Clinton and the Alpha Bank allegations are involved in the attribution to some extent. We just don't know how much reliance was placed on their work. But in addition to CrowdStrike not giving access directly to the servers, and then you get these emails that Margot Cleveland had released like a year and a half ago now, where some of the people around the cyber research are saying, well, CrowdStrike's work is spoofable, and isn't your work spoofable too? And there's sort of this hypersensitivity around not criticizing CrowdStrike's work, which was just really interesting. So there's a lot of red flags.
Yeah, there's documents where obviously Manos was kind of poo-pooing all over CrowdStrike's work. Yep. But then in other documents, they're like, oh, we don't want to go too hard on them because they did the DNC attribution, blah, 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 the early one. Yeah. But also, before I forget, when you mentioned Tejas, like, you also have some documents that are very interesting about him.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if you've released yet.
I haven't released.
Talked about.
Yeah, I haven't released them, haven't talked about them. And
you know what I'm talking about, though, right?
I do, yeah. Okay. I think I'm going to release all the documents that I've gotten probably in the next couple of days. So, like, we got these documents for Tejas Patel, and, like, I didn't even realize it until
Governor Abbott.
Yeah. I didn't realize it until Fool pointed it out. But, like, in the DARPA side, he has these initials, this acronym next to him that designates him as a contractor. So then we kind of have this measurement, like this, we get to see this frequency, this relative frequency with which Angelos Karamitis was emailing Tejas in the Georgia Tech documents. So then I got these other documents where the name is redacted, but it refers to this person that was working with the FBI, that was assigned to the FBI as a contractor in their cyber department. And it looks just really familiar, and it's really consistent with Tejas Patel. So it's like, the open question is, okay, these attribution materials that were going to Tejas, and we know that, was he actually assigned and working for the FBI during that time? And that's going to be a really interesting question.
Well, I don't think it's even actually a question. I think the documents, I mean, I don't know if I'm stepping on you. Should I step on you?
Yeah, step on me. Go for it.
Okay. Yeah. So basically, like, the documents entail that Tejas was detailed to the FBI in that cybersecurity thing. And he was basically, from what I can tell, he was probably in like the Crossfire Hurricane fusion cell, which we can't say that definitively, but in the early stages, he was definitely in that joint cyber task force that was in Virginia. I forget, like I know if Larry was in here, he'd tell me what that's called. What's that building? But anyway, it's like a bunch of like CIA, DHS, NSA. They're all in this little task force in the same building, but FBI was kind of running it, and Tejas was, I think, detailed there, which he's the direct like contact between the Georgia Tech guys, and he's the guy who when they had their attribution reports, Dagon and Sanakakis, they are the one he was selling. They were sending that to Tejas, which we didn't realize that he was actually detailed to the FBI.
Yep.
Until you got those documents, which is very interesting.
The other connection is the Mission Ridge, and I think that's what you're referring to.
Yeah, Mission Ridge. That's what.
So what I just got a document the other day, and I don't think I realized this, but the Mission Ridge facility is actually the home of the NCI JTF task force.
100%. Yep.
So yeah, when we had those old text messages from Peter Strzok saying he had to go down to Mission Ridge.
Yeah, Nick Whale did like a thread on this a long time ago about Mission Ridge, and we didn't know what it meant, but yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, so then I got these memorandums of understanding between DARPA and the NCI JTF and the FBI for that matter. But DARPA actually has formalized arrangements to go help the FBI with different criminal investigations. So when the cyber researchers in these emails are saying, hey, I was tasked by the Department of Justice and we were sending these materials via DARPA, it's like, no, like they really were. They have these formalized arrangements. So
yeah, it's almost like DARPA probably didn't actually know because he was probably detailed to the FBI, so they were just going straight to him and to the FBI and DOJ. Like DARPA might not have even known about it.
And the at least the attribution materials from August 7th, they went to the personal email accounts. They didn't even go to the DARPA email accounts. So I have another update on that. So I also filed suit for that August 7th attribution report, and they're going to deliver it by the end of April. So I'll have that.
Awesome.
I don't know, how many redactions will be in that, but we'll have
probably the entire thing.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, that's dope. Yeah, but I really liked where did you get that release from? Because when that kind of unfolded, that he was like basically they're detailing the FBI, that was very interesting to me.
Yeah, that came out of the Department of Defense.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right. Because it seems to me like he was probably in the fusion cell, but I mean that's just a hypothesis. But it seems like those early guys that were, what's that place called? The NIJT, whatever,
NCI
LGBTQIA plus. I think
that's right. Yeah, QIP.
Yeah, that's where Tejas was in. Yeah, that was very interesting because they didn't even need to go to DARPA or anything or whatever. They could just send it straight to him, and Crossfire Hurricane might have already had it.
Yeah, and today Tejas is actually with the DARPA. He's in Karamitis' old role, but at the time he was just a contractor. So
it's nothing against him or any of those other guys, but he was there, and these guys were involved with a lot of things. But it's very coincidental. It's very coincidental.
Yeah, I mean, you start just realizing like these same people are involved in all these different, things, and it's like half the things have been haven't panned out at all. Like they don't even seem credible in the data. I mean, you got FBI agents saying the person that put this stuff together is like 5150-ish, and it's like, okay, if somebody like that is who the government's relying on for official attribution for the DNC hack, we need to see those documents, right? Like their case has got to be bullshit if that's who they're relying on. Like you can't even bring a case if you have to put that witness up there and the defense gets to pull in all the Alpha Bank shit against the witness because that's who you relied on. Like it's just messed up because then you also have, from the Sussman trial where the FBI people were like, yeah, we wanted to go interview David Dagan because that's who all the confidential human sources were telling them had authored the Alpha Bank allegations. And the seventh floor, the leadership of the FBI said, no, don't go interview David Dagan. And now we know that they already had attribution analysis from David Dagan. So it's like, did the seventh floor leadership of the FBI know that when they said, no, don't go interview him? And were they working and actively trying to thwart basically damaging information that would hurt the official attribution? Because if you had to go interview David Dagan on Alpha Bank, then all of a sudden there's a record of that, right? And you would have to turn that over one day and basically have to explain what you're doing.
Oh, 100%. And I mean, they're kind of using Tejas as a middleman. Again, like I'm not saying like Georgia Tech did anything wrong. I mean, when I look at the NetSix like indictment, I just want to know more about like the Arizona server where they were using. What we know whose data they were using. Which like if all the data like Georgia Tech can get is what's supplied to them, like what are they going to do with it? But like we know whose data they were using.
See, and it's really interesting because I've had some pretty prominent cyber people tell me that, if they're using Newstar's data and not data directly from the DNC, that data might not really tell you all that much. It might give you a few indicators, but those are not like, you can't take those to the bank. Like they tell me things can look really suspicious, but you need like better data to actually make like formal attribution.
Well, especially if we already have the person that we were getting the data from was potentially spoofing the data before.
Yeah,
that's like your sort of your hypothesis,
right?
That like the Alpha Bank data was potentially spoofed, which we still don't even know what else could have happened.
Yeah, it's just surreal and just weird that like nobody's looking into this. I really thought like after Matt and I published that article, I would have thought like there'd be follow-ups. Like I would have thought that would have made it to Fox News or something like that. And the fact that these people connected to Hillary Clinton Alpha Bank allegations are in any way tied to the DNC hack attribution, that they just submitted reports, I think that's really newsworthy. And I am surprised at the lack of attention on that, but we'll see.
Yeah, it's all locked in a box. And recently, like people were getting into the. Oh, sorry, I'm watching disc golf. I just lost my train of thought. Like the ICA report that what was the story that came out recently about the ICA report that Cash and Nunes came out with? I just invited Ship to come on here. I don't know if he has anything new. He's a legend, by the way. Wasn't there a story recently about like the ICA report about or Nunes and Cash's ICA report? Did they wanted it? There was hid in the CIA in a vault and another vault, and because they obviously thought the original ICA report was very political and whatnot. Which I mean, it could be political on their side, but
Cash has been talking about that for a couple of years now. Like Aaron Mate had a couple of really good interviews with Cash, where Cash can't tell us what's in it, but like he's dropping some really strong hints in there. He said like there's stuff in their report on the construction of the ICA that just can't be explained away. So it's a real shame like the Republican Congress hasn't even went and gotten that.
Yeah, which is weird, and they haven't even released the Atkinson interview, which I don't understand that, but whatever. Ship, you want to come on here? I'm going to invite him to speak if I didn't already.
We knew Ship before he was famous.
He was always up there. He's a little bit more famous now.
He's a lot more famous now.
He just needs to stop pissing on the spaces. That's what he's known for. The big bladder. Hey, Willie.
I invited him, but
yeah, I invited him too. Oh yeah, there he is. Hey, Ship.
Hey, what's going on?
It's been a while.
Yeah, so
Not too much.
have been following your publishings without getting too involved recently. I sort of have my hands full.
Yeah, you're doing the Lord's work over there, buddy.
It's more than you can see. Actually, I got
I could
quite a bit
imagine.
of stuff going on behind the scenes that if it ever breaks into public at any point in the not too distant future. Yeah.
Oh well, DM me it all. I'll release it.
So I've been sort of taking note of the various commentary online, particularly with regard to the revisiting the attribution of the DNC hack. But I can't say that I followed it chapter and verse, so I'm really here more to kind of listen than to participate.
Okay. I mean, we're just having a happy hour, dude. I don't know what time it is over there. It might be in the morning, but crack one open.
I'm in California right now, so.
Oh, okay. It's 5 o'clock somewhere. Well, can you speak on anything? Like, I'm kind of interested in the bomber guy. It looks like that's kind of breaking open.
Yeah, well, I mean, in fact, I represent Steve Baker, and
awesome.
Notwithstanding the fact that Darren Beatty has rushed to the microphones to say he was the one that covered it all, that's not true. Steve Baker told me the details about the now released video back in November. He had already seen it and was already working on it, but he didn't have authorization from I think it was either judiciary or oversight. He didn't have authorization at that point to comment on it or release it. So he was sitting on that story for almost 2 months. I think it might have been. See, Steve, if you don't know who he is, Steve was one of 3 journalists that I know of that McCarthy gave access to all of the video. Julie Kelly was another, and I think Epic Times, somebody from Epic Times might have been the third. But they were given access to non-public video that they could just look at. They couldn't do anything with it. They could go to a skiff in the Capitol, sit down at a computer terminal, the same material that was available to the staff of those committees. And they could just, they could review it, and they could take notes, and they could try to inform their reporting with it. And then, the first 90 hours was released, and that included some of the Jacob Chansley video that I then, representing Jake, filed a 2255 motion for failure to disclose video. Judge Lambert ended up not finding the argument persuasive, but I think the bigger problem was just Jake had already been released from prison, and there really wasn't a remedy that could be afforded to him, even if the video had been meaningful for purposes of his sentencing. So that's part of the video that has been available to journalists. Now, most of this video has been available to defense lawyers for quite a while, but we access it under the terms of a protective order, so we can't publicly disclose it or comment on it until it's made a court record. And when it's made a court record, it's either used in some kind of hearing or during trial or sentencing. Then it's made public, and then we can comment on it. But yeah, I'd never had a reason to look at the bomber video or the video of the 2 bombs. Frankly, the 2 pipe bombs wasn't much of an interest to me because it never really had anything to do with any of my clients. But now, having represented Steve I first met Steve during, he was one of, so the first Oathkeeper trial, the one that has Stuart Rhodes and 4 others, started September 26, 2022, and ended the week before Thanksgiving 2022. Now, I had a client in the second trial and a different client in the third trial, but I was actively involved in what was going on in the first trial just outside of the courtroom. I was in communication with the lawyers for the 5 defendants pretty much daily and offering my support and advice as necessary. But Steve was a journalist covering that trial every day, along with 4 or 5 more mainstream journalists that you probably heard of and followed. Kyle Cheney from Politico, Ryan Riley from NBC
That guy is
News.
such a fucking douche.
You get to know all these guys outside the courtroom. You get to know them beyond simply what they write. Every one of them, none of them hide their political leanings.
No, I know, but he's a fucking douche on social media. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah, you're right.
I know you have to be impartial, but I'm not.
It's not a matter of being impartial. It's just like I've had occasions to talk to all of them off of social media, standing in the hallways, in the cafeteria, having a cup of coffee. And like anybody, when you have face-to-face contacts with people, they are not unintelligent. They are, they're just guys you talk to, and so, but like I said, and I've had many conversations with Ryan Riley. Ryan Riley doesn't hide his, point of view. Ryan Riley is clearly a, liberal, and Ryan.
Well, so is Cheney, obviously.
Not to the same degree, but not like Ryan.
Well, yeah.
But the other thing you kind of have to keep in mind about Ryan is, and this is true of a lot of these guys. I haven't seen Kyle do it yet, but Ryan is developing and has developed and attempting to maintain a social media following. And he does that by sort of, playing to the crowd on his own side of the field, right? Because he was writing
I wouldn't know anything about that.
He was writing a book. He's playing to the liberal masses with his commentary on social media because he was going to want to sell a book when he was done with it. And that was his buyer base. And so he wrote a book. He called it Sedition Hunters. And I don't know how well it sold, but so it was always part of. And this kind of started. When did this started with? If I'm not mistaken, was the first Obama campaign in 2008. Reporters that got assigned to the junior senator from Illinois before he became a thing, they all thought that they were, just like, this is a crappy assignment. I'm going to be on the bus following this guy around from campaign camp, stop to campaign stop. Nobody ever heard of him. Nobody can spell his last name, blah, blah, blah. But then when the campaign turns into something, first of its kind, and he suddenly sprints past Hillary Clinton, and he's a phenomenon and gets elected the first African-American president, all those reporters wrote books, and they made a fortune. Well, that's sort of what has become the mindset of the modern reporter. Get yourself assigned to something that might turn into the opportunity to write a book. And that's what Riley did. And it influences everything he writes on social media. And he's the first to acknowledge that. But Steve Baker, was a freelance journalist. He would kind of sell his content to various outlets. He had a bunch of video. He licensed video that he took on January 6th. He was on the grounds on January 6th. He licensed video that he took to HBO. It's in their documentary. He licensed the New York Times. He licensed it to 10 or 12 different media outlets. They all made use of his stuff. But the interesting thing about him that I immediately noticed when I was watching the social media coverage of that first trial is the guys like Kyle or Ryan Riley or Scott McFarland. That guy's a dick. Scott McFarland. Jordan Fisher, who's the local guy, works for WUSA in DC. He's a younger guy, and he works for a local news station, but he was there pretty much every day. They would report. They would have social media strings about the day's testimony, but they would shut their computers after direct examination was over. The only thing you got from them was what the witnesses testified to under examination of the prosecution. Baker would report what came out on cross-examination, which oftentimes.
This is like when me and MB were at the Danchenko trial.
The same thing.
They would just run out the room.
Right, exactly.
They wouldn't listen to the cross.
Right, and some of the best stuff comes out on cross. I mean, the direct stuff is all.
Oh yeah.
The direct stuff is all rehearsed. It's the holes that get punched in the defense in the government's case on cross the questions that can't be answered, or like when every FBI agent testifies, everyone in the first trial testifies, not a single person they interviewed described the Oath Keepers having a plan to take over the Capitol. Nobody ever said there was a plan. Nobody ever described a plan. The indictment referenced the Stewart Rhodes plan 25 times, but every FBI agent who asked said, "Well, no, nobody ever told me that there was a Stewart Rhodes plan." So that kind of shit comes out in cross-examination. Well, Baker was, he had a different point of view, he's a conservative guy, and so that stuff from cross-examination was in his social media threads about trial testimony every day. So as a result, the lawyers that were in the courtroom, not me, they developed sort of a friendship with him. He would come up and ask them questions. And he had all this video evidence that he'd been analyzing. So he would call their attention to videos that maybe weren't part of the case yet, or the defense lawyers hadn't seen. So just several of them developed a friendship with him over the course of the case. And then I came in the second case. He did not cover the second case daily, and he did not cover the third case daily. But he kept an interest really in some of the problems in the first case. And he really took an interest in Harry Dunn. And Harry Dunn, and this is something that was never, so Harry Dunn's like 6'4", 285 pounds, right? We know who Harry.
Yeah, he's a big dude.
Okay, Harry Dunn's in the Capitol. He's a great big offensive lineman-sized dude. He's carrying an automatic M4. And if you believe his trial testimony, he was terrified out of his mind that he was not going to get out of the Capitol alive. Okay, Harry Dunn told 4 different versions of the story. Harry Dunn's interviews and his report immediately in the aftermath do not resemble hardly at all his trial testimony. He then had a whole different set of recollections for the January 6th committee, which he then was made a national hero and testified to in prime time. He then had a different description of activities in his book that he wrote, and then he had the trial testimony, which again was kind of a 4th variation. And there are serious discrepancies among the 4 variations, and that was something that Baker stuck with Baker. And so, Baker went hunting.
That's why they indicted him.
They haven't indicted Baker yet. They're threatening to, but.
Oh, I thought he was. I guess I haven't been paying attention.
Close
enough.
We issued a press statement. There's 6 lawyers, all connected to various Oath Keeper defendants, but I'm kind of leading the group.
Okay.
And we put out a statement on Monday of this week because word reached. I'd had a conversation with the lead prosecutor, who's changed. The government has recently. They had the investigation of Baker was being handled by what I surmised was a relatively young and inexperienced AUSA out of Philadelphia, just one of these detailees that they signed the case to. For over 2.5 years, this young female had been working on it. And then recently, sort of out of nowhere and without any explanation, a much more experienced AUSA from the U.S. Attorney's Office in Washington is now responsible for the case. And I kind of read that. I was like, okay, there's somebody wants this to be looked at a little more closely before they decide what to do. So I've had.
Before they decide to indict a freelance journalist.
Exactly. It's like, let's step back and have a little more seasoned, somebody with a little more, experience under their belt, decide whether this is really a step we want to take, whether the evidence warrants it, and exactly how much trouble we might be bringing upon ourselves for actually indicting an actual journalist. When we've already got the names of 60 journalists who were on the Capitol grounds, none of whom have been indicted. So what did Steve Baker do other than publish a couple of stories that have made DOJ look bad, that caused him to be isolated? So, but word had reached us, and I'm not going to say anything more than that. Word had reached us that Steve's 2 stories about the what we think is inaccurate testimony by Capitol Police officers. And then he was the one that broke the recent information about the passerby who discovered the DNC pipe bomb not actually being a passerby, but in fact being a Capitol Police officer dressed in plain clothes.
Right.
That that is something, that's a fact that had been set on for 3 years. It had never been released to the public for 3 years. And Steve broke it, and it just really agitated the Capitol Police. I'm not sure if it agitated the FBI so much, but the information that reached us is there was now a clamoring in multiple federal agencies to look for evidence that would justify charging Steve with a felony as opposed to simply misdemeanors. With the suggestion, again, this is just sort of the way the information reached us, the suggestion being that the felony could then be used as an excuse to execute search and arrest warrants in an early morning raid, when in fact I was explicitly told in a conversation with the new prosecutor that they would not do that, that if Steve was in fact charged, they would communicate that to me, and Steve would be able to voluntarily appear in DC at a time and date to be arranged. So I wanted to, we wanted to get on the record in a statement on Monday that, you know, the government has already made this pledge. They've already pledged that if Steve was charged, he would be allowed to simply voluntarily come to the courthouse. He would not be subject to any kind of early morning dynamic entry raid. And you know, if that comes to pass, if that changes, and the government does that, then that's clear, you know, evidence of retaliation for his reporting.
That would be insanity. Like you're saying, he's already contributed to like various documentaries and stuff like that. What do they think he was, just for being there? Like Graves came out and said, if you're in the vicinity or whatever, we're going after you.
Well,
what did he do?
No, he was just he's carrying. I don't know if he was using his phone or if he had some other model video camera, but he had a tripod. You know, so he's carrying around a tripod, and he would mount his phone, and then he would, you know, basically, you know, interview himself, so to speak. You know, he would give a narrative to his camera about what he is seeing, you know, with the camera set up on a tripod facing him. So he's not just holding his phone in front of his face. He's kind of.
But did he ever collapse the tripod, hit anybody with it?
No,
nothing like that.
He collapsed it and he carried it around, and then he would set up somewhere else.
Okay,
and take
yeah.
Video somewhere else.
That's fair.
But you know, if you know, based on other things I've seen, some idiot prosecutor, and I'm not saying that at all about the guy that has the case currently. Guys with a lot of experience. We had a long conversation, very rational, very businesslike. But some idiot prosecutor.
Well, DM me. I'll say it.
Some idiot prosecutor could say, "Well, that's a dangerous instrument he's carrying around," because they've made that kind of claim for idiotic stuff, you know. So, you know, a flagpole with an American flag on it that has a, you know, an eagle emblem at the top is a dangerous instrument according to the government.
Dude, I got dangerous instruments all over me. Can you go into whatever else you're working on or not?
Oh, I'm just, you know, I mean, I don't have any really big complicated J6 case. You know, those seem to have come and gone now with the Oath Keeper trials and the one big Proud Boy case. Everything else now that I'm seeing and people are coming to me for representation are, you know, 1 and 2 person cases where it's just, you know, whatever's on the video is what they did, and that's the case, and there's nothing, you know, nothing more complicated than that. I think that the government has, in large measure, gone through what I've called sort of the low-hanging fruit. You know, the 2 primary sources of video evidence the government has, and they need the video evidence in effect to identify people. But the 2 main sources of video evidence are the CCTV video and then the body-worn camera. And the body-worn camera is only worn by the Metropolitan Police Department. The U.S. Capitol Police do not wear body-worn cameras. So whenever we're dealing with a body-worn camera video, it's from a Metropolitan Police officer. So, I mean, it took them, some significant amount of time to review and analyze all of that and to, inventory the episodes where the video from the various cameras provided, what they thought was clear, incontrovertible evidence of, whatever the conduct was of the defendant. And so where you have, good body-worn camera, good CCTV video, easy to identify the defendant and what they did, that's the low-hanging fruit, right? You can just, once you have the person identified, the evidence is a video primarily. Then once you have their identity, you begin to, subpoena social media accounts. Do they have a Facebook page? Do they have, do they have a Twitter account? Do they have, get their phone records or their text messages? The normal kind of stuff you would collect, and then you begin just to, assemble your case. The social media and the text messages, that's your sort of intent. That's what was in this person's mind when they went to the Capitol on the 6th. Well, what's in their mind is reflected by their communications with other people. Those were the easy cases to investigate, accumulate the evidence, file the charges, produce the discovery, take the case to trial. I think they've gone through pretty much all of that. Then sort of the second line of easy, low-hanging fruit is just the people that are walking through Capitol and not doing anything, many times posting their own video on YouTube or sharing their own video with people on Facebook. So in effect, sort of, spreading around the incriminating evidence that they took of themselves. Then they use the CCTV video from inside the Capitol to confirm where the person went. Now, there's comprehensive maps of every camera that have been provided in Defense Counsel. The maps, show you the camera location, and you can roughly figure out the field of view for the camera. So when I know what my client's wearing, if they went in the Capitol, I can just sort of go from camera view to camera view to camera view and follow them around. And so, the government can do the same thing. So that's how they establish, what time somebody enters. Do they turn left or right when they go in the doors? How far do they go down the hallway? Do they turn and go into somebody's office? They can do all of that just by watching the video feeds from the various cameras that the people move around. And then they've got, the selfies on the cameras, or they've got the video that's shot by the defendant themselves, where the defendant did so. So those cases are relatively simple and straightforward. And once you have an ID of the person involved, it's really nothing too complicated to get that case filed and get it resolved. I think most of that has been done, or a good number of those cases have been done. Now they're moving into the more difficult cases, where you don't have really clear body-worn camera video, or the person never went inside. You've got limited CCTV outside. And most of the CCTV outside is like long lens stuff. It's not up close. You see some of these, wide angle, long lens videos that are from atop the Capitol dome. We can't really identify anybody with those. So there's not a lot of, there are some exterior CCTV cameras that are close enough, and the video can be manipulated in such a way that you can get an ID, but not to the same degree as inside. So you're seeing, what I think is happening is the government, DOJ, is starting to pivot and starting to figure out, okay, how many people outside can we identify that we can charge, with the 1752 counts. And that's the misdemeanor offense for being on restricted grounds, being on the Capitol grounds when it was restricted. Now, there's an interesting issue that's developed on that charge in the last 3 months, including in one of my cases more recently. The wording of that statute is somewhat odd. because it can be read in such a way, and 4 judges so far have done this. It can be read in such a way that it says that the defendant knowingly entered and remained on restricted grounds. Well, to knowingly do that, you have to know it's restricted. There's no like red lines on the ground. It's only restricted as defined in the statute because the Secret Service is controlling the security because there's a protected person either there or scheduled to arrive. Well, there's only, Secret Service protectees, it's only the president, vice president, and families of each. Okay? Well, if you knowingly entered restricted ground, you would have to know why it's restricted. And now 4 judges have said that requires the government to prove the defendant knew the vice president either was there or was scheduled to be there. And I just had the 2 1752 counts dismissed after trial for one of my clients on a failure of proof. The judge said there was no evidence the defendant knew the vice president was there. And it's an element of the offense because otherwise he has no basis to know it's restricted.
Now you're referring to Pence and not Kamala, right?
Correct. She doesn't come until later in the afternoon. So
yeah. So like I just had like a thought and I forget it.
Cool.
Willie, you can ask a question there. I just had like
yeah. So I mean, one thing about that area outside of the capital, I have a friend, a journalist who works with Tracy Beans, Wendy, and she was just outside the capital, and I think and from that point, from January 6th, I'm like, yeah, they're going to come after you, and that's, I think that's happening now. But going back to the pipe bomber thing, this whole, like, the way the pipe bombs were like discovered, this Carlin Younger, is it Carlin Younger lady, who discovered it?
She discovered the RNC. She discovered the bomb with the RNC.
So she discovered the RNC, and she worked for a company called FirstNet, and this relates back to the Yotta phone thing, which is another issue from Spygate. But she worked for a company called FirstNet, and FirstNet, so they provide mobile devices for first responders that when the normal cell phone, so your device, they have a couple of frequencies, the normal cell frequency, and also another one which, when you have 1 million people around the capital or wherever, they can still communicate on cell devices. So my 2021, maybe July 21 or September 21, I forget exactly when, we looked into FirstNet and we thought, well, maybe these pipe bombs, which basically look like dog toys. I mean, they look like the type of dog toys you would train a first responder dog to sniff out an explosive device in an airport or whatever, and then give them a treat. But that's what they look like. They had these hour timers. They're like dummy toys you train a dog to do something with.
The physical appearance is kind of almost comical.
Yeah,
it's a metal pipe. It's got a cap on the bottom. It's got some wires sticking out of it. It's got a kitchen timer on it. That's good
yeah,
for that runs for 1 hour, and they know from video that it was placed there 17 hours earlier.
yeah.
So, how does that work?
So the linking of that with this, like if you wanted and you work for FirstNet and your raison d'etre is to sell a communication system that works in an overcrowded cellular environment. So like when no one else can like communicate on their mobiles or their phones, but and you want to show off your product FirstNet, well, why wouldn't you have a couple of like dummy dog pipe bombs laid outside the DNC and BRNC? And you go, oh, there's one here. When nobody between where Trump was speaking and the Capitol, like, can actually speak to anybody because the network's overloaded. This Carlin Younger, she's like, well, the responders, the first responder network, the FirstNet network works. So I'm wondering whether, well, I wondered 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago, whether they were demonstrating that this first responder network actually works when the rest of the cell network is blocked off just from people being there, that they can still like use it.
Yeah, I mean, I could see where that would be one plausible, scenario that might have been looked into back when this first happened. But I think the events since then are pointing in a different direction. I think it's long been I've never really spent too much time talking with other defense counsel about their suspicions about this, but I've heard a lot of them talk about the idea that this was meant to bring personnel from the U.S. Capitol Police away from the building down to these two locations. A lot of people don't know this, and I didn't know this until it was explained to me. But even though these are private headquarters of the DNC and the RNC, they're private offices, for whatever reason, it might simply be because members of Congress are in and out of there so often. The congressional leadership has extended law enforcement protection from the Capitol Police over both of those buildings. So even though they're not strictly on the Capitol grounds, the U.S. Capitol Police Force, because they're members of the Congress there so often, the U.S. Capitol Police Force has jurisdiction over law enforcement at those two locations. So when the pipe bombs were placed there, it was a given that the call to the police would be to the Capitol Police, and it would draw resources from the Capitol Police to those locations to investigate. And presumably, you would expect that one of the things the Capitol Police would do would be to cordon off a substantial physical area and use manpower resources to do so.
Sorry, can I just like ask you again, or get you to repeat that? But the Capitol Police like encompassed the DNC, and the RNC.
Correct. Those
At
two
that point.
locations, as it's been explained to me,
But
even
why?
though those are not government facilities,
But
they are
why?
the headquarters of two political parties because members of Congress are in them so often. So
was this a specific thing on January 6th, or was it?
No, I think it's all the time. It's all the time.
All the time. So we have this competing like globular like thing you draw around the capital. So it's a capital to RNC to DNC. It's Capitol Police, and then we have Kamala turning up, who was in Secret Service like protection at the time.
She had a Secret Service detail with her, yes.
Yeah, so and then she turned up to the DNC headquarters, and their dogs I'm laughing because I have like a couple of spaniels running around, and I tell you what, if I train them to explosive rather than pheasant, they would not have missed that. I just can't understand how.
Well, see, that's part of the issue is that those items were in place for 17 hours, and nobody noticed supposedly. Now,
or we're told that they were there for 17 hours.
Well, there's video of the person that they have identified as placing the two items in the locations from 5 p.m. the night before, or whatever time it was.
Isn't it the case that, I mean, for real, if nobody had gone to the Capitol following Trump and they found those two bombs, they would have, in fact, evacuated the Capitol and stopped the formalities?
I don't know if they would evacuate the Capitol because it's not. I mean, the Capitol. I don't know the exact physical distance, but they're not.
Am I losing my mind, or didn't I? You read a lot of things on X, but I thought that somebody said straight up that the finding of the bomb at the DNC triggered the evacuation of those houses.
No.
Okay.
No, the evacuation didn't happen until 2:20. Both bombs were found by 1:15.
Okay.
I think that's the issue that I have as well, is the lackadaisical.
Well, that's the issue. That's the issue.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me tease it out a little bit. I mean, I know these facts. The first bomb discovered was the RNC bomb. The Capitol Police Bomb Squad, and they have only one, was tasked to go to the RNC to investigate. They followed most of the normal protocols for investigating suspicious, possibly explosive device. Okay. The second called in, and I think there was like 30 minutes between the two calls. The second call, I think, was at 1:50. That is on the DNC device. And there was no Capitol Police Bomb Squad available, so they called the Metropolitan Police Department. But that took a while for them to get dispatched because by then, substantial numbers of the Metropolitan Police Department were being dispatched to the Capitol. They started getting dispatched to the Capitol at 12:30. So there was a manpower problem. What's curious is that nobody called ATF. Nobody called the FBI. So you have sort of this ad hoc collection of law enforcement at the DNC, and nobody seems to be too concerned. As we now see on the video, they let a group of children walk within 20 feet of where the bomb is supposedly laying there. Like nobody really thought it was a bomb. That's sort of
right. So, Ship, are you trying to get like the calls of like Secret Service, whoever might have reported this bomb?
Well, remember, Secret Service has said all of their
or anybody.
Well, all of the Secret Service communications from that day have been lost.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Hey, also a assistant director of the Washington field office testified before Congress that this quote unquote bomb was viable, which I guess viable could mean a lot of things. Like if you filled it with explosives, it would become viable, right?
Exactly. Kyle Seraphin made that very point yesterday, that really turns on what he meant when he used the word viable, because in fact, they tried to detonate the DNC device and it didn't blow up.
So just for FBI, between where Trump gave his speech and the Capitol, there is a certain building, and this is so. I believe it's post when, like when it's kicking off at the Capitol, and people are walking down from Trump's speech to the Capitol, and these are people who weren't involved in any of the violence, etc. But they're involved in other stuff. But I will say no more. But when they walked past the FBI headquarters, they noticed that FBI and or whoever's in the FBI headquarters, up to the 7th floor, were laughing at them.
Well, yeah, I mean, the FBI headquarters is a mile away. It's not close to this location.
Oh, no. Okay, the DOD then. But whichever one's on that route from, it might be DOJ then.
I mean, they're across the street from each other.
Yeah, I think the hypothesis that has been floated among the defense lawyers is that the plan was that these were planted on purpose, with the idea that as the crowd began to move from the Capitol from the ellipse towards the Capitol, based upon the schedule as it was expected to take place, that the Capitol security would be undermanned, that Capitol police officers would have been called away from the Capitol to deal with setting up perimeter around these two bombs. And then when the protests at the Capitol got unruly and out of hand, that would be the excuse for why the Capitol Police, 2,000 people strong, could not maintain security at the Capitol without making them look like a bunch of idiots. Without the Capitol Police looking ineffective and, amateurish, which is what they turned out to look like, that they would say, well, our excuse is we had to send, 300 officers down to these two bomb sites to secure those facilities, and then we didn't have enough people left at the Capitol, and then, that's why things got out of hand. The problem is things got out of hand before that ever happened. By the time the bombs were discovered and reported, things were already out of hand at the Capitol, and they didn't have anybody to send.
I understand that. I think you're definitely right, but I think they're basically training devices, and a friend of mine.
Well, yeah, they're not like bombs, obviously.
They were mock-ups. They were made to look like bombs.
They're made to look like bombs because they have like a 1-hour timer, and we're supposed to believe that they were left the night before. And I'm so sorry, but I'm going to have to say this, but a good friend of mine, he did the whole thing, and like did the height, etc. And then he did the height of Kamala Harris and the gait of Kamala Harris. And basically we came up with the idea that Kamala Harris was the pipe bomber.
Get the fuck out of here. That didn't happen.
She's not smart enough to work a pipe bomb. Come on. Even a fake one.
She can only work a pipe.
No, exactly. But pipe is peep in French, and peep is blowjob in French. So she can work a peep. It's like
she can make something explode. We get it. We get the joke. She can make some pipe explode, but not others.
No.
Can I present another theory?
Yeah,
because that seems that it would be a very dangerous thing to do, based on the idea that there's going to be a giant crowd trying to get in the Capitol, even for people that are, potentially pretty crazy people. I think it makes more sense that someone might have planted those fake bombs because the crowd didn't become unruly. In the case that the crowd that approached the Capitol behaved like every other crowd in American history and shouted a bit, showed their signs, went home, didn't create this giant disturbance that the Democrats maybe hoped to make the Trump people look crazy. And this would have been, oh my goodness, a Trump crowd was around the Capitol and then someone planted bombs. That would have been the storyline if you didn't have the storming of the Capitol storyline that actually happened.
That's Bongino's theory.
Well, I understand, but I mean, they have a Capitol police officer finding it before any of that happened. At 1:50, when nobody had breached the building at 1:50. The crowd was, unruly outside the building. I think what was unanticipated was the size of the crowd. And I don't think anybody on either side of the aisle imagined that the crowd would actually break windows and doors and go inside. I think nobody thought it would actually go to that extreme. They just wanted the spectacle of a large protest with Trump signs being, a black eye on democracy. The idea that they would break out windows and take over the building for 2 hours, I think nobody imagined that.
Well, nobody imagined that they would be fired upon either.
Well, sort of the miracle the whole afternoon, frankly, is that there was only one shot fired
by Capitol Police into the chin.
That is
into
very
the
amazing.
cheek of Joshua Black at 1:07 p.m. before Trump was even done speaking.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's a pepper ball.
But we could go on
but
to
there were Capitol Police all over and MPD all over with automatic weapons, long guns. They were everywhere. And the fact that Lieutenant Byrd fires a single shot from a handgun and that's the only shot fired, I mean, that's pretty amazing.
It's amazing that didn't start a cascade of fire. Because that's the kind of thing that tends to happen.
Yep.
So we could talk about Zachary Alam. I don't know if Larry's around, and our thoughts about him, or our initial thoughts about him. I'm not sure where his case is at the moment. Been half following it. I think he probably pled guilty something recently. I don't know. Kept on changing his lawyers. But he's the guy the Fargo guy who broke the window for. He's the guy who broke the window for Ashley Babbitt to go through.
Yeah, I've had 3 clients right there in that exact same spot at the exact same time. So I know all that video. And then he after he breaks the window, he's using the helmet to break out the window. He then turns around, heads for the stairs, where the SWAT team's coming up the stairs. He pauses there. He changes, the shirt he's wearing or the hat he's wearing, and then heads out. Yeah, but
So I mean, I think it was like 3 days later, I did a video montage of him, because going through where he was in the Capitol, and I described him as an agent provocateur. I'm still not retracting that.
Let me join your course there, and I would urge people, if you aren't following, follow Timothy Hale now on Twitter. Okay, Timothy Hale is also Timothy Hale Cusinelli. He's the one that was caricatured as the Hitler guy because he had taken a picture at one point with a fake mustache that made him look like Hitler. Because, Timothy worked for a defense contractor, had a top secret security clearance, very serious guy, time in the military, absolutely nothing in his background, right? And he goes to trial and he gets convicted. He's then in DOC for like 2.5 years with some of these guys. He says absolutely 100%. Jake Lang told him Jake Lang was Antifa. Jake Lang just went to protest to cause trouble and raise shit. said the same thing about. He said the same thing about.
Zachary. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't remember. But he said the same. This is just recently. You go to. I mean, Tim got out of custody in New Jersey and is back home about 4 weeks ago, and he has now become very active on Twitter, calling out what he said are some of the frauds that are in custody in DOJ who are not who they claim to be. And he said the same thing about Brandon Fellows. Brandon Fellows admitted to him that Brandon Fellows was an Antifa kid. He would go around and go to protests and cause trouble and just because just how he got his kicks. And that's what they were there, just because there was going to be trouble. That's why they went.
Yeah, and they get paid out of it. Like there's a certain Hungarian guy who bankrolls this, and it's expected, but you go and cause some trouble, and they'll either get you out of jail or you spend a couple of years in Danish jail or wherever, Czech prison, and you get paid at the end of it. And it's similar to the. Sorry.
Jake Lang has raised $1 million while in custody by playing the part of the persecuted political prisoner. He's on media all the time talking about what a great MAGA hero he is, and he's raised $1 million online.
99 in Czech Republic, I paid like in cash like 30 grand to get a load of Danish protesters out of jail, out of a Czech military hospital. I know where the money comes from, and I know what these people are likely to want to do. So I'm saying that it's a third party. It's a non-governmental party, but wishes to cause issues, and that makes them money.
Right. I mean, we know, like the summer of 2020 protests, where the pallets of bricks would just turn up in the locations where there are going to be protests out of nowhere. Where do pallets of bricks come from?
Yeah, exactly.
The brick fairy.
And also you get you get paid money back in Seattle, like 10 million for however many. It was like $250,000 each, because over subscribed police or something.
Yeah,
in Seattle in 2020, and then you go back to and it was like 1999 when they shut down the WTO.
Yeah, let me something else that's come up on for January 6th, weapons being thrown at the police. Frozen water bottles. Okay, frozen water bottles being thrown at the police. It's like 36 degrees. I've looked at the weather many times. It wasn't like in the teens or the 20s. It was 36 degrees. Not cold enough to freeze water in plastic bottles if it's left outside. Who in the crowd is bringing frozen water bottles with them on a 36-degree day?
Outsource the NIH for dry ice and liquid nitrogen. That's the only way you're going to get that much frozen water bottles at that degrees.
But who's gonna hump them from the ellipse? And why would you have frozen water bottles on you'd have hot coffee. You wouldn't have frozen water bottles. What, are you waiting for your water to thaw out so you can drink it later? So where do frozen water bottles come from?
Find the liquid nitrogen. Find the dry ice. I guarantee that's where it came from.
I love frozen water.
It's always the Fed's way to overcharge and conflate something that isn't actually happening.
Well, yeah, that sounds like Antifa. That sounds like Antifa protocols for sure to just come with frozen water bottles. Shiv, I just remembered, like, I mean, this might be an obvious question, and you might have answered it a million times. But why are they pursuing like all these like misdemeanors so hard? I don't get it.
Well, I have my theory is that the Biden Justice Department is intent on continuing to arrest, charge, try, and sentence people all the way through November of 2024.
Yeah,
They
to the
want
maximum
they want
degree
this
possible.
they want this narrative just to keep up all the way through November, because this is what he's going to run on. This is what Biden's going to run on. Is that Trump is too dangerous to allow back in office because we're still prosecuting people from 4 years ago.
I mean, that's what I figured, but I don't know if you had any secret sauce on that. And do you think there's ever going to be a sedition charge against Trump? Do you have any rumblings?
No,
heard any rumblings of that?
They would have done it already if they had it.
That's what I kind of figured. But so the misdemeanor charges is basically just to keep this going forever.
That's what I think.
Yep, that's what I figured. Anybody else have any questions for Ship while he's here? Or if Ship, you want to comment on anything else?
No,
Keep on going, baby.
Let me just say
I'd
one
love
thing.
to. Oh shoot! I'm sorry.
Okay, all right, go ahead.
Let me just say, Ship. I do scrape my wallet out for you from time to time, and
thank you.
and
Thank
and
you very much.
your gentle nudges are what do it. Don't be too embarrassed to keep those coming. And anybody here that wants to help those J6ers.
The reposts are important because the reposts help it get wider.
Yeah,
I can do that for sure.
Yeah. Well, I tell
Thanks,
you
Jack.
what, I'm like a lot of I think about those J6s constantly because, but for my wife, you might have been representing me.
There you go. You might have been there.
Like the fella right before me, staying here, and I'm sorry, I'm gonna fangirl out just like for a hot second.
Oh, I see my new
I've been following Bill, Fool, Eric, Charmel's Whistle, Treformaldic, can't even, Undead, McCabe's Porsche. Man, I swear to God, this is the power of Twitter. I'm sorry, now X. Anyways, I've been following you guys for, Jesus Christ, 3+ years. I swear there's probably only about 30 or 40 of us that are, like, who spools up any evening tonight who wants to talk about DNC hacks and Georgia and all that? I mean, seriously, who does that? Because
I don't think anybody else could.
there.
The problem is nobody else could. That's the only.
And I'm not even in a hot tub tonight.
Thank God.
I know, Bill. Thanks, dude. Anyways, I'm gonna cut out, man. But I swear, dude, I'm like a total fangirl, and I'm a 52-year-old stud, former Navy, TS, SCI. I know how the Beltway works. That whole SES fucking gang, that's what's ruining our fucking country. That's where you get these little red mustachioed lips who's stealing fucking goddamn luggage in a goddamn airport. Who does that? Anyways, I love you guys.
Insane people. Thanks, man.
Yeah, have a good one.
I just followed you. You're the man.
I want to say hi to my new client, Dova. I see you lurking there, Dova.
Hey, Dova.
Can I suggest something that we?
No.
Yeah, no. Eric.
Make it quick.
Chiramella. Maybe we get a little update on the whole Georgia. If somebody wants to add him as a speaker, Eric.
Oh, you mean Paul? I think I tried to get him to come up here.
Yeah, no, just an update on the whole Georgia, like Hoyer thing, because I mean, there's two like threads of Georgia. Hoyer's is one.
Yeah, I tried to add Paul. I don't know if he wants to come up here or not, but
yeah. While we got Ship, could you speak a little bit on your thoughts on the Fannie Willis saga?
Well, also, I think Ship wanted to keep on going on about other stuff, but yeah, just keep going, Ship.
Well, no, I think I was going to. I was going to write something on that this weekend. I'm going to try to update sort of my view on all 4 Trump cases this weekend. The Willis thing, not covered sufficiently yet. And I had a post up earlier today on this, and I had mentioned this last week. Maybe it was earlier this week. In the last 6 days, I've been in Dallas, Honolulu, and now California. There's a federal statute. And again, everybody says, "Oh, then nobody will ever prosecute her. So what difference does it make?" It's like, okay, fine, but she's got to be concerned about this federal statute and the possibility that if Trump wins, she's going to be in the bullseye under this federal statute, which means she probably shouldn't say anything while there is uncertainty in her future. His federal statute is 18 U.S.C. Section 666. Yes, we all know it's Section 666. But what it is a very, very strong federal anti-corruption statute used against state and local government officials. And what it says is any entity, any governmental entity that receives $10,000 or more in federal funds is covered. Anybody who unlawfully obtains, and there's a whole, whether by embezzlement, fraud, blah, blah, blah. Anybody who unlawfully obtains $5,000 or more from such an entity is guilty of a federal a federal felony. Okay, she applied for federal funds for her office for COVID needs. Those aren't, the fact that she got those funds means her office is now covered by this statute. Doesn't mean she stole those funds or anybody stole those funds or misappropriated those funds. It's just now her office is subject to this statute. She then pays this guy $1 million when he has no business being appointed as a special prosecutor on that particular case, not when she's got prosecutors in her office being paid a salary to work there who have vastly more experience doing that particular kind of case than the guy she hired. The guy she hired files for divorce the same day she hires him, and from that moment forward, they are apparently, if they hadn't been for some time before, in a romantic relationship that she then realizes financial benefits from. Not only can she not take the money herself, she can't acquire access to the money through third parties either. I mean, it's damn near a slam dunk based upon accepting as a given the information that's been published so far. So I don't see how she can stay with the case out of her own interest of self-defense, self-preservation. That has nothing to do with whether or not, her actions have created a conflict of interest that would require her to either step aside or be recused by the court. She needs to hire a criminal defense lawyer, and that criminal defense lawyer needs to tell her, you can't say anything about this from this point forward. And, oh, by the way, you can't prosecute this case either, because now we're looking not to help put Donald Trump in jail. We're looking to keep you out of jail.
But she's also...
Was this an audition to become special counsel, Ship, when Trump takes office?
Oh,
You
yeah,
heard it here first.
I've already volunteered.
I know, I saw that.
He's going to be an attorney general.
Oh,
No, I don't.
Elmer Fudd.
I don't want that job.
It's gonna be rabbit season all year round, baby.
No, but she, as Technofog pointed out in a tweet yesterday, she went to that BME church and she said, "Oh, it's all because I'm black," and she did a sort of ex parte, is that a correct word? Ex parte?
Extrajudicial commentary.
Extrajudicial commentary about how everything's racist, etc.
Right.
Well, yeah, that's like the Georgia stuff, but Ship's like commenting on the federal thing, which I like. Actually, I didn't know about that. That's interesting.
I love a federal.
Well,
Techno. I love a federal.
Yeah, Techno made a great point. Building on the Trump filing, that she violated a black letter law Georgia ethical statute by attributing racist motives to the defense, not to Trump, but to the guy that filed the motion. She basically said the guy that filed the motion is racist. He's a defendant. She can't say that to the
Yep.
basically the juror pool.
And it's really bad for black ladies who get there on their own merits without shouting racism.
I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what it reveals to me is she's a friggin' novice. She has no idea what she's doing. Nobody would have told her that was a smart thing to do.
I find it just incredibly hilarious that it sounds like what she's been accused of sounds a lot more like racketeering than anything she's accused Donald Trump of.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, my dad was in the FBI for I don't know how many fucking years, but he's just like, this is a RICO case. Like, what they're doing to him is like a complete RICO case. I don't know why nobody's looking at it. Well, we know why they're not looking at it, but this looks like a better RICO case with all these prosecutions against him than what they're filing against Trump and his alleged co-conspirators.
The beauty of this, I didn't realize this. I just read it. I think it's true. I'm going to say it because if unless the person published it got it wrong, that particular defendant, Moran, the one that's raised this issue, is one of like 4 people that the grand jury did not recommend charges against. But the DA had the option to file them anyway, and she did.
And we know that grand jury wasn't that bright to start with.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we saw them on stage.
This takes me back to my days as a big federal drug case prosecutor, where the best witnesses were always ex-girlfriends and ex-wives, and it's Wade's ex-wife that has busted this whole thing open with their divorce filings.
Yep.
Yeah, it's like
that's like Strzok's like ex-wife who blew the whistle on the Lisa Page affair.
Yeah, it's women scorned. And this is not a sexist thing. It's just like
It sounds like a sexist thing, Willie. You're out of here. Just kidding.
No, I will try to keep my next comment below 7,000 words with a daily limit of women.
Well, you need to pick up the words per minute or words per second is what you need to do.
Okay.
Because it's coming out of your mouth so fucking slow.
Yeah, I'm 5 hours more drinking than you ahead.
That's not an excuse, dude.
He's authentic.
You've lost my train of thought, but it was perfect, and I've lost it. I'm gonna shut up.
Yeah. See ya.
I mean, on the one point of racketeering, I mean, I think it's really interesting and probably really damning for Fannie that she selected this guy that has no experience handling RICO cases, because that goes to the point of like enriching yourself if you like the guy and you're financial benefiting. But if he at least had RICO experience, she might have a more credible defense against some of these allegations. But the fact that he has no experience and she chose him over at least one person who did, that really, that's going to be tough to confront when you have to answer some of those allegations.
I don't think this guy's ever tried a felony. I could be wrong about that, but I recall hearing that.
Try to commit him.
No, he hasn't. He's basically a speeding judge most of the time. It's like a misdemeanor judge.
Magistrate.
Most of the time. Magistrate.
Yep.
Okay. And that's his like experience for however long. I think he lives in a basement 20 miles north of Atlanta, out of Fulton County. I don't even think he lives in Fulton County. And yeah, so she's paid him $1 million for, and then she's got paid him back.
Well, if I ever got appointed to be the special counsel, I tell you what I'd go looking for, because I'm 100% confident it exists, and I'd be looking for the communications between him and various Democratic-leaning interest groups headed by people like Norm Eisen, because I guarantee you that's where the work got done, and then they fed him the work that ended up in the indictment.
Ship, I'm actually submitting a number of FOIAs in Georgia, but I actually submitted a FOIA for Fanny's emails going to or from Norm and some of his affiliated people, and there's nothing that came back in Fanny's account, at least her official account. But that's an interesting point. Maybe I'll have to look at the laws a little bit. I don't know if I can get access to submit an open records request for his account or not, but yeah, that might take a look at that.
Just to fill in a gap while people decide what to say, yeah, the Senate, the Georgia Senate, have made a. Are they going to like investigate or something? The whole impropriety.
Yeah, they set up an investigating committee for Fanny.
But this is like, say, Georgia, Michigan, Minnesota. Oh, I forget the other one. Pennsylvania. They're like four major of the 2020 elections. They're all Republican supermajorities, and this is the first time that a supermajority has got anything through. It's like, oh yeah, we're all going to go for investigating Fanny or something. But yet we've had 4 years and they've had those supermajorities and they haven't gone for it.
I don't think they've had supermajorities. There's no way in some of those other states.
I think so.
I doubt it.
I think so. I got a tweet somewhere with
Did Pennsylvania and Michigan have supermajorities of Republicans? I doubt it.
I will check my timeline, but I know it's a reply to Jelen at some point, but they're maybe it's not all supermajorities, but it's
they might have majorities, but I doubt they have supermajorities. That doesn't sound correct at all.
Okay, maybe not. Maybe not. I'm.
I don't even know if Georgia does. They might. I don't know. I have no idea.
Fool, remind me. At some point, I wanted to ask you and MB about your thoughts about Daniel Jones popping back up in Colorado with like the Secretary of State and stuff.
Oh, I didn't even know anything about that. I didn't hear about that.
Okay.
I haven't been paying too much attention in a lot of stuff lately. But MB?
I assume cockroaches are going to keep popping up. So I'm not surprised. Yeah. But I hadn't really heard anything either.
Don't know.
Hey, since we have Ship here, and I always have like questions, I'm like, man, I need to know Ship's opinion on this. What do you think of the Texas case, the border issue that was just in the Supreme Court? Thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I think it's been completely misreported. The Fifth Circuit issued an injunction against the federal government that they could not go cut through the concertina well, and all the Supreme Court did was say, we don't think that injunction is authorized, and they vacated the injunction. So all they said is that the Border Patrol can cut through the concertina wire. Didn't say Texas couldn't put it up. Didn't say Texas couldn't take other measures. Didn't say Texas didn't have the authority to try and defend its interiors by stopping illegals from coming across the border. Didn't say any of those things. Those are still issues to be litigated in the district court where the case is pending. And I think essentially what the court is saying, look, this is between the federal executive branch and the state of Texas to manage between themselves. There's a very interesting Scalia opinion from I think 2014 in Arizona versus the United States or something like that. But it's this sort of this very question: what is the independent authority of a state as part of its state sovereignty. And remember, the 50 states have never surrendered their sovereignty as part of joining the United States. They all remain independent sovereign states. So, what is the authority of a state as part of its sovereignty to defend its borders? And Scalia's opinion is actually a partial concurrence and a partial dissent, but he covers this very question in some detail. And he basically says, look, unless the Congress has explicitly in a statute taken on the responsibility for itself, the states retain all the sovereignty that they had when they joined the Union. And as of this point, Congress has not explicitly taken on this responsibility, such that the supremacy clause would eliminate the ability of a state to act. So both governments, the state of Texas or the Republic of Texas, or what does Texas call itself now? State of Texas, and
Texas.
the United States federal government, they both have authority to act to defend the border. And how that is going to play itself out, how that it's going to resolve itself, I'm not entirely sure. Just going to have to wait and see. Biden could, nationalize the Texas National Guard, or federalize, or whatever it is, in which case it would fall under the authority of the Department of Defense, and then he would have the Defense Secretary tell the National Guard what to do. But that's why these other states have all come in, and I guess today DeSantis signed an order that the Florida National Guard is authorized to go to Texas if called upon. So it's like, what are they going to do? They're just going to keep nationalizing every state's National Guard that sends National Guard troops to Texas to help?
Man,
they're just gonna take away their liquid natural gas or whatever they're gonna do.
I just think it's amazing that Texas will probably they can cut through the concertina and Texas can just replace it the next morning, and they can do that indefinitely because at the moment that's the way things stand, right?
You think there's unlimited razor wire, MB?
Listen, make America great again. Razor wire is what makes this country great.
I bought stock this morning.
That's a good idea.
And DeKalb, Illinois, that is where razor wire was invented, and we can do this again.
You know what? I used to joke, I wish I had bought stock in a plexiglass manufacturer in February of 2020.
I don't get it.
COVID.
They put plexiglass.
Oh, I forgot about that thing.
Imagine the amount of plexiglass that
you're right
manufactured and used.
Too much. I didn't use any. That's probably why.
I just want to know what kind of vitamins Ship takes, because he's got so much bandwidth.
None.
And no prostate issues. I'll tell you that much.
Good on you.
That's probably a HIPAA violation. You probably can't talk about that, Jack.
I'm trying to remember what that was fun, but that wasn't what it was. I can't remember what. Oh no, that's you guys said I was in the bathroom. I was in a hot tub.
Yeah, you're in a hot tub. Allegedly. That might come up in Discovery at some point, so I can't wait to see that in an interview.
I was
in a hot tub, I swear.
That was Vivek that got caught on the
Oh yeah, Vivek was peeing on there.
Yeah.
I think I've done that on one of these too, but who cares?
Yeah.
Ship, you got anything else? Any other freaking hot sauce?
Not stuff I can talk about, but I got some hot sauce.
No, talk about the stuff you can't talk about.
No, can't do that.
I know that's what I'm very intrigued about when you said that.
No, but it's out there. We'll get to it someday.
Woo! I love it.
All right, I'm going to sign off though. I got to go.
All right, always a pleasure, dude.
Everybody, take
care. Thanks, Ship.
Yep. Have a good one, dude. Bye. Hey, Paul, I see you're in here.
Yeah, I'm here.
What up?
Nothing much. I can give some updates on Georgia if everyone wants.
Yeah, let's go.
So there's obviously the Halderman case, which everyone probably saw, where Alex Halderman, who's a professor at University of Michigan, was able to basically hack into the Dominion machines in front of the jury. There, he was able to kind of change the setup so it changed the votes and kind of showed them and demonstrated how they could change the votes. What he isn't doing, and specifically not doing, is showing fraud, because the case isn't about fraud. It's about showing that the machines are able to be hacked. And there's all these issues, if you follow me, with remote access on every level. And if you've read the Haldeman report, you know all about that. The interesting things that are coming up, though, are about the ballot duplication. So I'm a part of a couple of groups that are involved in this kind of as a bystander to watching them do all the technical stuff, but they basically found thousands of ballots that were duplicated. They called them strays. The problem is these are between machine count 1 and machine count 2 of the recount. If you didn't know, they deleted all the ballot images and all the logs of Fulton County, like after the initial election, so you can't really see anything. And that's what the Farverito case is. It's about the initial finding, the initial ballots, and reviewing them in person. The court ordered that they had to show them the ballots in person, and they have yet to do so. And there's a couple great people who are kind of pursuing that, but the interesting things is the duplicate ballots are going to have their day in court. I know the people are preparing for that trial, or not trial, at least the depositions next month. I can't say anything more than that on that, though.
All right.
The
Yeah, I've been following that a little bit, but I'm kind of stupid about the whole entire election fraud stuff.
Well, the thing that I'm kind of chasing right now is the people who set up Fulton County's election is this guy by the name of Ryan Macias, I believe, from the elections group. He is the person that was at the EAC or CISA when, in 2018 and 19, he was the one in charge of approving voting machines. So he goes from approving voting machines to creating this elections group to run Fulton's elections as well as PA's elections. And if you look around, he's on every single major court case, handpicked by Hobbs to defend them in court, handpicked by the PA people to defend them in court. Meanwhile, he's getting paid to run elections, which is a huge conflict of interest. So now I'm chasing that angle. And all these guys who work together, this guy named Matt Masterson, who's part of CISA, it kind of ties into everything else. They're all part of the Stanford, whatever that thing is called, the Stanford Observatory, and they all part of the disinformation.
Yeah, the disinformation dudes.
So it all connects to the people who actually set up the elections. And those are the FOIAs that I have open right now. We're trying to piece together that angle.
That a baby? And wasn't Karamitis like on one of those things or something?
So yeah, right when Karamitis goes to Georgia Tech and is involved in the DARPA, there's this guy named Wanky, who's initially the one.
Yeah, Wank Lee. Yeah.
I don't know him much. I've only seen his FOIAs, and he's the one who resigned from the EA, or the Enhanced Attribution Program, because of the spoofing concerns, because they use the same type of analysis that CrowdStrike does. So he actually stepped down.
We have that. Well, Ryan has those emails when Wanky Lee are basically like in sort of a little argument there about attribution and stuff like that.
But to step down from such a huge program means you have to have some major red flags and concerns about it, because that's
Do you have more? Do you have those?
Which maybe Ryan could say something more about that.
I'm actually a little bit confused. I don't know that I've seen those documents that Wanky stepped down from anything. I have documents that Antonakaka stepped down.
Yeah, Mano stepped by.
Yeah, he stepped down from the COIAS Center of Georgia Tech.
So Wanky, he steps down from the EA. I have a set of, I think, 3 emails back and forth between him and Manos about, and he literally cites concerns about quote-unquote spoofing and cites CrowdStrike in the emails.
Like EA, Enhanced Attribution, you mean?
Yeah.
That's right. Okay.
Interesting. I have not seen him on Enhanced Attribution as far as DARPA goes. And I have not seen emails where Wanky stepped down from anything. I just have the ones from Antonakakis. And I do have emails where they're going back and forth about the spoofability, but I don't have anything where Wanky was stepping down. Do you want to forward those to me?
Yeah, I'll forward those to you because I mean the header of the subject line is, I think, even something like stepping down, unless I misinterpreted. But
Yeah, that's from Monos.
Yeah, I remember Manos wanted to step down from something.
That's COIAS. That's the attribution center of Georgia Tech. That's
let
not
me
that's not
double
DARPA
check
though.
before I. No, he was part of Georgia Tech when he stepped down. The Wanky Lee.
See, Mono stepped down from I forgot what the acronym stands for, but it's an attribution center within Georgia Tech.
Yep.
And he stepped down from that leadership position. He retained his position as part of Georgia Tech, but he stepped down from this like particular institute. And the subject line was stepping down, yada yada, and that's where they went back and forth about the spoofability. And Manos was upset because he felt like the policy researchers at Georgia Tech didn't know what they were talking about. And it kind of, from my understanding, and this is just my opinion based on trying to infer what they're talking about, like the policy people were or at least some people at Georgia Tech were trying to like stand on the shoulders of the attribution work a little bit and like kind of say, hey, this is what we can do. And then like other policy people were like, well, we shouldn't be using all this access and like sharing all this data all the time. And Manos
Yeah,
just
there's
got
that
really
one
frustrated with
researcher
it.
there's that one researcher at Georgia Tech who was pissing off Manos.
Yeah, it's Tim or something or other.
I can't
Forgot
remember
his name. Mueller.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I may be wrong about that Wanky Lee stepping down.
That'd be interesting if Wanky stepped down about something because
See,
he was a little bit skeptical about what Manos was doing.
Yeah, he was the one talking about is spoofable.
Yeah.
And then Manos stepped down. But if Wanky stepped down because he was concerned about attribution, I would love to see those emails.
It sounds like we're talking about the same one, so maybe I misread who sent who stepping down. Email.
Yep.
But the crossover was Wanky Lee is actually one of the people who, before even the elections, knows enough about the elections. He's on task force in Georgia, citing all of these questions about vulnerabilities, very specific, very details. He's considered one of the experts, and all of a sudden he drops off. I don't see him on any more emails after a certain point, and then all of a sudden Angelos Karamitis gets nominated by David Becker, and I have those emails where David Becker of Eric and Jordan Fuchs handpicks Angelos Karamitis to be on the Georgia Safe Elections Task Force, which is kind of hilarious. And I have all those emails from Georgia Tech, and they actually seem pretty reasonable from Karamitis. You can tell he doesn't have an elections background, but one of the emails is him talking about a hack at one of the precinct locations, and they go back and forth, and then Jordan Fuchs cuts in, she's the Secretary of State person right under Raffensperger, basically says, we're going to call you, and then that's the end of that.
Interesting.
It's actually a thread. Sorry to jump in, Fool, but
no, you go for it.
There's actually like this thread of inquiry that I've wanted to get back into, and I started submitting some requests last week actually, and they haven't produced anything. But going back to some of your foils on getting like Manos tied to like the state election type stuff and the RNC and the DNC networks, as an extension of that, I mean, I went back and I reviewed this because part of like the Russiagate, Spygate stuff were these claims that Russia had hacked the state election boards in Illinois and Arizona. And the first report of that actually came out in September 2016, which I find to be really interesting because it cited like unnamed sources and sort of an extension of what we've seen with Manos kind of referencing those hacks of the RNC and DNC, and the references that we have are like 2020's election, I think. But I am really curious whether, now that we know they were tied to like the official DNC hack attribution, I'm also really curious if they're also the source of those state election board, attributions or reports as well.
So they 100% are.
Okay.
So I've pieced it together a little bit. So they have.
Yeah, they got
monitoring egress points
figured,
from Dominion, and there's also this one red flag email where they're talking about hacks of these state local networks, and they say elections related. And they're actually trying to update DHS and CISA about, hey, we need more information about all these nodes and your Albert sensors and all this. But it seems like they're kind of stonewalling them and not giving them all the information while other people are. But they definitely are evaluating it, and they actually give a presentation to the president of Georgia Tech about the election-related stuff that they're doing, and they specifically cite Russian and Iranian in that email where they're talking about the hack of the elections network.
Yeah, we should touch base because I've actually been working with Matt on a lot of the disinformation space, which obviously kind of ties in with everything. But I'm really interested in that September 2016 report on the state election board hacks, and I'm kind of curious if we can maybe identify one of these guys as the source that ABC used for that report. I think it was ABC that published it first. That's all I had, fool. You can...
Well, yeah, like I mean that also like forwards to the potential DHS like hack or whatever in Georgia, which like was sort of buried or whatever.
Yeah,
Do you know
that's
anything
right.
about that, Paul?
What was that? Sorry, I missed that. I was finding the post with the hack of the elections.
Like, do you remember when like Kemp got super pissed about this when DHS actually hacked into Georgia's voter roll or election system? Do you remember that? Like, and this is like involving the protectors or whatever, like an offshoot of Anonymous.
Fool, I was actually looking at that last week myself, and
Yeah, it's
I'm trying.
ridiculous.
Like, Georgia has a Department of Homeland Security, and I'm kind of venturing to guess that they would have been involved in maybe like they would have received the information first on that. So I've been starting to submit some open records requests, but yeah, Paul, if you have anything more on that, I think that's really
It's
really
like Jay
interesting.
Johnson was involved in that. I don't know. It's like a weird story, which another thing just under the rug completely.
Yeah, absolutely. That's probably worth a little dig on that.
I wouldn't mind digging on that because I remember reading some emails just within Fulton County about why didn't anybody let us know about this? It's almost like a pseudo penetration test. It sounded
Yeah,
like.
it's like a pen test for sure. But DHS was, yeah, because Georgia trace it back to DHS, and they're like, "What the fuck are you guys doing?"
Yep.
So penetration testing's something I didn't know about until like a year ago. So are you guys familiar with Fortalice? I only know them in the context of the Secretary of State's office and Fulton County. There was a remote access that was actually reported by the precincts where someone hacked in, took control of one of the polling pads, and they reported it. And then Fortalice comes in, and they're the ones who've been working with the Secretary of State's office and taking over their kind of network security. They talk about, we work with the state, we should do this under a non-NDA, and they do it. And then I requested any contracts, emails, and they stonewalled me. But Fortalice is the one who is doing penetration testings actually at the Secretary of State level on their whole network. And then looking at the testimony from Curling versus Raffensperger, they don't fix half of the issues that they find on the penetration testing, which almost means it's not penetration testing. It's like an exploitation.
Yeah.
So Fortalice is an interesting company that I think is going to pop up a little bit.
Spell that?
Fortalice, Fortalice.
Okay. I don't think I've seen that before, but yeah, it's interesting. That like sort of mirrors other stuff I've kind of looked at. It's like NSA. It's like backdooring, basically. You know, you set up like a backdoor so who like the good guys can still get in there, which is not good guys, basically.
So, did somebody say Fortinet? Sorry.
No, Fortalice.
Borderless. Okay. It's just the Fortinet thing, going back to the shadow brokers and today, Chris, and that was the TAO like bit of the shadow brokers, which was supposedly got through into Vedestra emails. Jonathan Langdale talked about it a lot today, Chris. It was like this way that you can get through a Fortinet server, and that was part of the Shadow Brokers thing. Sorry, it just sounded familiar. Sorry if I misheard.
Paul, didn't you have a
No
thread
problem.
that includes something on Fortalist?
Yeah, it's I'll post it. It's
Okay.
It's probably the one thread that got the most views out of anything I ever posted, because I think it was the first direct link where they admitted remote access, and it was right there in the emails as plain as day.
Yeah, I remember seeing that one from you, and then I don't know if I congratulated you, but like I was talking about earlier, Senator Grassley actually made some inquiries. It seemed to be based on your work on the RNC and DNC networks and all that stuff. So that was good stuff.
Legend.
But can I just say something like about
No.
Yeah, no, because I like post 2020 elections, he was like doing the Georgia open records access for like all the video and I think it's before I even knew Undead, and he was just like on it. He was just on it. Like he was prepared to pay like hundreds of thousands of dollars to get like the video drops of all the ballot drops, and he's just got into FOIA in an amazing way. So I really appreciate every.
Well, yeah, these FOIA guys are legends. I'm way too fucking lazy to file any of that fucking shit.
Yeah.
No, I think Undead, because Undead's the one who kind of got me into it, to be honest. And this all
I know
started,
you. Yeah, like there's been a bunch of guys that Ryan's got into fucking FOIAing.
Yeah, because there's Alpha Bank I started, and then Georgia.
Atomic Penguin. There's another guy.
No, this all started.
No, go ahead, Paul.
No, this all started with drop boxes because I was curious and just wanted to look for ballot harvesting, and they literally laughed in my face when I called them and spoke to them on the phone. When I was like, "Listen, I'm just trying to count with my freaking counter and watch how many people walk up to a ballot box and see if it matches the transfer records." Needless to say, they didn't release the transfer records till like a year later in a lawsuit. And I did get the videos. They deleted 30 days of videos while my open records request was out, and they only had 6 days, maybe 4 days, kind of 6 days total, the last 6 days of the election. So they pretty much deleted all of the drop boxes, which coincidentally is also the people that are walking into the polling centers, the way that they're located. And in 2022, I did the same thing and even FOIA'd before the elections even happened and the day after, saying, I want them. And they just flat out said no that time.
But didn't they say like it was like $100,000 for like the storage devices to get all the Dropbox data?
The initial estimates, I've had everything from, to get the whole thing, it would have been hundreds of thousands of dollars if I got all 30 days. But I narrowed it down. They said they'd give it to me, and then they came back and then said they deleted them because I specifically wanted like 5 locations instead of paying for the whole deal. So.
Well, what the fuck? Why don't you spend hundreds of thousands of dollars?
I got a mortgage.
Yeah, get rid of that. Move to San Francisco. Do drugs. Well, that's fucking awesome, Paul. Great, fantastic work. I love how like we're just doing. I mean, not so much me, but you guys are just putting like your money where your mouth is and stuff like that. It's just amazing what this has turned into, the patriotism.
And the funny thing is, like, nobody around here in my town knows anything about this. That's the funniest part.
I know.
Dude, yeah.
Undead is all in. I've never seen anything like it. He buried himself in it.
Oh yeah,
great day.
Well, yeah, like I mean, Yeah, my normal life is like nobody really has anything. Well, they know I do fucking shit on the internet, but they have no idea. Like, it's not even like you can actually explain it. It'd be like, oh, like you would go to the end story and be like, oh, these guys did this, and they'd be like, I have no idea what the fuck you're even talking about. Like, to even have a conversation about this stuff, you have to give like hour-long presentations, and it's never gonna fucking happen. I'm never gonna take that time. It's like, I don't know. I just have fun on the internet. I have no idea. I do journalism, I
Yeah, they
guess.
assume it's OnlyFans fool. So
What's that?
they assume it's OnlyFans.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh yeah, you have 40,000 followers or whatever. You must have been definitely whoring yourself out. Which, you never know. You never know. I'd rather just not do the hour-long presentation. Just be like, oh yeah, I just do journalism or something. It's all confidential. You'll never know.
So I have some like old school boy like friends. We go shooting. We do all that stuff, and we basically run our dogs, and we have chat about how the fishing was last week and this, that, and the other. And then it's like, why are you always looking at your phone? Will, why are you always looking at your phone? It's like, well, we just busted.
I'm trying to save the world here, buddy.
Yeah, we just busted a Russian spy ring, and he's like, what?
No, you didn't.
Well, no. Okay.
No, that's what I'm saying. Your friends would say like that. I remember like when we did the Danchenko shit. Like I was in like the Lake of the Ozarks in Missouri during COVID, I guess. And yeah, like they would have like I would like look at my phone and like all the shit was going down, and nobody around there would have a fucking clue what was going on.
I remember standing in a line because it was COVID at the time, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I was standing in a line to get into the supermarket, and I'd worked out Olga Galkina, and I was
and then you DM me. I'm like, yep, I already got it.
I'm DM'd you, and I'm like, that's it, that's her, that's the one, and I'm like in this COVID line, and you just look around, and you're like, nobody has any idea that you just busted a Russian spy ring.
Yeah, exactly.
It was like, it was just this weird thing. The other one was for one of the video of the what's the name? Zachary Lamb, the Ashley Babbitt thing. I was halfway up a hill doing that. It was just randomly up a hill, and no one knows, and it's great. I love it. I love the fact.
I know, like, I remember when I busted like Eric Charmella and his meetings like in the White House with like the Ukrainian prosecutors, and I was like at the gym with like a friend who like basically knew what I did, and I'm like, this is gonna be a hot one. And I remember like I got like 5,000 retweets in like 10 like minutes or something like that. We were at the gym. I'm like, look at this, like my phone's like fucking dying right now. And then like it's the only person that knew, and then I just went home and did whatever.
Yeah.
It's like crazy shit.
That's the best bit about it, isn't it? I think not the best bit, but it's
like that meme. It's like nobody knows. When it's like everybody's dancing, there's like one fucking loser in the corner. It's like nobody. Like I remember, like somebody did like a meme recently. It's like nobody knows that Elon Musk just replied to me. Like that's exactly my life, probably.
It's great. Anyway, look, thank you for everybody who's on here, right? Because I go through it and.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah, I know, but pretty much everybody. Well,
yeah, they understand that shit.
Yeah, we all understand the stuff, and you all put effort in, and just thank you, because I mean, I should be doing other stuff, but
But isn't it the funnest hobby? Isn't it like, can you guys? Isn't it the funnest hobby you've ever had?
I think so. I mean, it's addictive. I mean, I'm like Foyer fan. I'm trying to like shut down Twitter, and then I come back because I need to know about a little bit of this and that.
That's a terrible idea.
Well, no, it's good. We're going to get there eventually. I think, but in between time, we need to like work out where the threads of all this last 8 years. It's ridiculous. It's like 2016 when the DNC hack happened. Like trying to remember what Matt Tate was talking about, the ex-GCHQ guy who's obviously disinformation. And
Hannigan?
Yeah, but
oh, well, Tate and Hannigan, yeah.
As well, and all these and we've delved down so deep, and we've got it.
I wish Congress had the same memory, the same level of access to information that we do.
Well,
they have the same access. I mean,
they just don't have the same fucking brain.
Right.
Yeah.
They pass the brain.
I mean, there's people that know. There's people that follow us, and there's people that I've talked to, and like they know all about this stuff. They just don't want to do anything.
Okay, the same level of knowledge and the same devotion to the problem. There you go.
Well, it is hard because, like, for a lot of those guys, they have to cover so many subjects, so you can't just focus on one little niche thing. That's why, like, a bunch of other these like corruption scandals come up, like Hunter Biden laptop, which I've dug into a lot. But my main thing has always been Russiagate and peripheral things about that, and I just don't want, like, I don't really feel like digging into anything else anymore. Like it was a lot of neuronal capacity and stuff like that, and a lot of time and a lot of stuff like that, and I just don't feel it's like you know how like artists, like their first album is like always their best one because they put their entire life into it and they're never going to be able to do that again. It's like that's kind of how I feel. Like I don't feel like putting that effort again because I know how much it was on the first time.
I will say, and you guys tell me your experience with this, but the tools that you sharpen become really interesting in daily life. And it's like, you want to know you want to know that guy's background? Give me 15 minutes. You know,
yeah. I mean, I'll like social engineer people in like my daily life. I'll do like all that fucking shit, and they'll have no idea.
You can't turn it off. It's hard.
No, yeah. And any person that comes into my life, I'm like, oh, who the fuck actually is this person? Just like, dig into it, whatever. You cannot turn it off.
I have a lot of dogs. I just don't post them on the internet because I know that if I post a picture of my dog on the internet, somebody will do exactly what I do. Like, what's his name?
Yeah, but your dogs are probably posting pictures of you on the internet, Willie. Have you ever thought about that?
No, they have their own internet account. Yeah, another one, but the Mangiata, the one of the big lips, Papadopoulos, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I remember spending 24 hours on Google Earth working out exactly where that photo was taken from, like somewhere in Bulgaria, by looking on Google Earth for 24 hours on the size of the swimming pool. No one should do this.
You're right. You should.
We shouldn't be doing this.
That's the title of the book. No one should do this.
Do not do this. Don't try this at home or anywhere else.
Do you know what was the other guy? Not Samir Gotta. The guy with
the guy with Charles Dolan.
Charles Dolan. Yeah. And it's like, I can find the exact window in
Me
Russia.
and MB talked to Charles Dolan.
Yeah, I know, and it's
Facts.
like, why are we doing
He's a
this?
nice guy.
Yeah, no, I'm sure he is. And I'm sure, I'm actually sure that I've been shooting with Chris Steele. That's a different conversation. But I'm like, yeah, I've been shooting with him.
You must have been.
He was a cunt.
Oh, 100%.
And I
checks
was
out.
a surf. I was a surf, but my dogs worked well. That's all that I said. So, yeah. I don't know. We are crazy to have this like autistic, like delving down on facts or details and stuff. But somebody has to do it.
Well, it's like,
That's why I'm here. I was like, nobody else is gonna fucking do this shit.
yeah, like that's the thing. Like, it's like, okay, if you really believe like the DNCX a false flag operation, and like we actually have some evidence and like some good analysis and theory supporting that, like how do you just walk away and just like ignore it at this point? It's like nobody else is looking. Are you really just going to turn away and like not pay attention to it anymore? How can you do that? If I could figure out how to do that, I would walk away tomorrow. I wouldn't do this anymore. It's like the worst hobby I've ever had
Dude,
in
you
my
should
life.
have it. Dude, Ryan, just get a traumatic brain injury and you'll be fine.
I need electroshock therapy or something. Just scramble everything up because
I recommend drinking more. It works for me.
yeah, I need to.
Yeah, just
black
smooth
out
that
drunk.
brain out. You'll fucking definitely forget about it.
And to parlay on that, you think someone else is doing this out there? One of the groups I'm in is the people creating a program to basically replace Eric in voter registrations across the country. They're super well funded and in touch with Trump's lawyers, but they were in touch with the RNC and all these other groups getting data. And they said all of their data is old. They don't know what the hell they're doing. There's been no real effort to look for anything. So you think someone else is doing it. No one else is doing this really.
I
Except
think
some
you like
very few
underestimate
people.
how like I always underestimate how fucking dumb the average human is, I think, because I'm above average. And like I can't ever like put myself in their shoes, I don't think. And I feel like when I talk sometimes I'm like, I don't think anybody really gets it, maybe. And that's probably true. I don't know. I think we're just like a little bit on the right side of the bell curve where you oh shit, I almost let it go. Where I can't relate maybe to the middle. I don't know, and I don't really know what the hell they're doing, what the capacity they have. And I'm not trying to like sound like a narcissistic person, but I think it's maybe the truth.
No, it's like some of your most well thought out tweets get no traction, and then some asinine thing I post is the one that gets like 1,000 likes. And you're like, that's what you like?
Yeah.
That's it.
It's like, oh, okay. I can do more of that. It's like I used to be a rapper and I would be like I'd like get stuck on very complicated lyrics and then like I'd listen to other rap and be like, oh, that's all I have to do. I don't even think I could do that. Like my integrity wouldn't bring me down to that fucking basic ass level. But I think that's basically you can apply that to any science or any occupation or something like that. I don't know.
So the where I came in 2015, 2016, it was a random offhand comment by a friend of mine called Jay Peace, and he said, "Oh, Bernie Sanders might look good or whatever," and then
Oh yeah, he's hot.
no, but I mean, like in American elections, and I was like, doesn't sound right. Anyway, so I started looking at the doing the math on the primaries in 2016, and I was like, it doesn't add up. Like they're cheating. They're cheating. It's like it's on an Excel spreadsheet. This is not like the advanced mathematics that is my pinned tweet now. But I was like, no, can use my mathematics and Excel wizardry, and they're cheating, and they cheated Bernie out of the thing, and I'm like, well, I've met Hillary. I hate a cunt. Sorry, she is a cunt.
Oh yeah, everybody knows that.
And I'm like, well, so it's either Bernie or it's Trump, and I must admit, I wasn't like Trump down the escalator, Trump supporter.
Well, I didn't vote in
Who was?
2016, so
Well, no, I can't legally vote, even though I did. I mean, I paid a Mexican to vote.
congratulations. You're caught, dude.
No, I'm not.
I'm an FBI CHS. You're done.
No, I'm definitely not.
You not hear the people pounding on your door right now, Willie?
No, I'm literally in the safest place in the world. Like we have no crime around here. I mean, I
Besides what the
can't-
fuck you're doing in our elections.
No, I'm not doing anything in your elections. I'm the like Chris Steele. I'm like the opposite. I'm the antithesis of that. I'm the
Ugly.
Hey, Willie, go ask your old friends. I need to know what the Podestas and Vostrom did to screw over Barry Sanders. I need to know that very badly.
sorry.
Actually, yeah, that's like a very interesting topic.
My old friends.
Your old
No.
Bernie bros.
No. I'm literally I'm not a Bernie bro.
Well, I know, but everyone loves you, Will. You've got friends.
You're
Okay,
a Brit.
for me.
However, you might notice that a lot of my followers are Bernie Brays who have stayed with me and voted Trump in 2016. So, all the Bernie Bray people I knew, they all went Trump.
Well, Hillary did
And-
something really bad that really upset some people, and we can't figure out what it was, but it involved Vostrom.
Vostrom.
Right. In 2015, 2016.
Yeah, those like tweets are very interesting. The Podesta Vostrom.
Was it like Uranium One and shit?
No, do you remember like who was that
Yeah.
account who said that?
No. So let's go at Uranium
Fixer
One.
guy.
Right.
Yeah, Fixer guy.
Yeah.
Okay, so
It's like
so
really interesting. If you go, like I was reading Clinton Cash again a couple weeks ago, and Schweitzer talks about all these shell companies in Canada, and I kind of want to take another look at that.
Yeah.
I think my reading of it was Uranium One was a separate issue he was throwing in their face. I think the Vostrom Podesta thing was its own thing, and I suspect it had something to do with email, something along those lines, something techie. That was just that's soaking in this thing for fucking 5 years or whatever it is.
okay, so let's just go back 8 years.
All right, guys. I might have to bounce like in a few minutes, but I know Eight Brave Mice has been on here for a while. If she wants to say anything, I want to bring her up.
All right, just before that, the Uranium One, the Charles Ortel, Amy Sterling Cassell, there were people, and a few others. Like, so Charles Ortel is the guy who is a Wall
Clinton
Street
Foundation
investor.
researcher guy.
Yeah. But and similarly with Amy Sterling Cassell, and then got poll analysis back then
I guess you dropped out.
Yeah, that's how we got the whole that uranium one thing. I think, if I remember.
Well, that like Douglas, I forget his name. That whistleblower that went to like John Solomon and a couple of other those things. I'm gonna bring back on Siffer Hawadid. You're back. Hello. Siffer X. Siffer Hawadid. You're back. Am I still here?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Oh, fuck. I guess he's not speaking. Anybody else want to wrap it up? I got to get out of here.
Yeah, I'll just say real quick. Think about joining Fool's subscription.
Yeah, I'll do anything for you guys.
You too.
I'll be your little whore.
You too can have 1,000 followers. Big day for me.
Yeah, Jack. Thank you for popping my cherry there. That was very nice of you.
Yeah. I'll see in your messages. All right.
No, I'm serious. Like, if you guys want to join, like, I'll do anything. Like, I don't really care about. I don't. For my personal account, I don't really care about doing that much on Twitter that much anymore. I like just doing comedy and whatever, and just doing whatever. It's literally just my journal. But if you guys want to subscribe, and on Fool and Friends Fridays, I'll do whatever you want. I'll do your charity. I can retweet whatever you want. If you want to subscribe, if you don't, it doesn't matter to me because it's just there for you guys. The other thing is, I want to shout out the School of X. I create a community. We have like a book club. I think the first meeting spaces will be next Thursday. I don't know how many people read the book. I don't really give a shit. But the people can
Upanishads.
The Upanishads.
Yeah.
The End of the Vedas is the first book, and then we're gonna march our way through the philosophy from I guess the oldest to our present day. We'll see where we can get to, but the reading list is kind of on one of my threads there. But yeah, School of X. I wanted to restart like the Platonic school. And we can go through a bunch of religious texts, mysticism, philosophy, etc. I've read most of this stuff. It's fun for me. I feel like I actually, honestly, for a lot of the stuff I've done on Twitter or in my regular life, I kind of attribute to mysticism, which is kind of weird for a lot of people to understand, but that's what I do. But that's honestly what I attribute it to. And a lot of these texts have helped me for that.
And you will end up at Zhuangzi's crooked
Yeah, you might be
tree.
the Zhuangzi.
Zhuangzi's crooked tree. Yeah.
Yeah, you
might. But that's basically where we'll end up in that whole philosophy, mysticism thing, and it's great. I love it. I think I'm gonna have to reread Upanishads.
The Upanishads are very nice, but I also say it's like a little bit biased because I think Shankara picked out like the Upanishads that we're reading, which are sort of like the principal Upanishads, which kind of are non-dualist or kind of monism centrist, which I haven't actually read a lot of the other Upanishads besides these ones. So I can't really comment on the rest of them, but it's kind of a little bit biased, but maybe I'll read the other ones and they're kind of saying the same shit, but I have no idea.
I've given myself it's a week away, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a week away. It's on.
So I'm gonna do it exactly the way I do the rest of my homework the night before. So
there you go, fresh in your head.
Yeah,
fresh in your head. That's all I got. Any of the other speakers want to say anything before we sign out?
Yeah, join my book club. We will be going over the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. It's also
we'll
Friday
get
night.
there. It's going to be in my book club too. We're
Yeah,
going to go. We're going to go through Aleister Crowley.
Right.
We're going to go through Blavatsky, all that shit.
Yeah, but I'm doing it first, so you know.
Yeah, but you're going like from front to back, and I'm going from back to front.
Boom.
Umberto Eco.
What, you don't think that's all based off of Upanishad shit anyways?
Yeah, exactly. But that's where we ending up.
Well, it depends on how you think time flows.
Well, no, because
There's no such thing as time.
No,
Exactly.
but
You're right.
one of my favorite parts of my
Mysticism
life is I did meet Umberto Eco in a bar in Milan, and I'm right. Sorry.
It wasn't meeting me on a Spaces, Willie.
No, him. Sorry,
God
it's
damn it.
like it's just like, oh, and it was my girlfriend, and we'd just come out of a 13-day party in Rome.
That was a bender, basically.
I know it was like we put on a party which ended up in La Repubblica, like techno hippies came to make our new year for 13 days, and it was
Sounds like a lot of
riot
blackmail
clubs.
information dudes has on you.
Not well, me. I don't give a toss.
Me neither, actually.
It's like my security service know what I'm about.
That's what I figured.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, literally, I assume that would just let me exist because I chat to you guys. So
Let's go.
yeah,
All right,
that's
sweet.
Right. Anyway,
All right.
Love you. Right.
All right, love
Don't
you,
do
Willie. I'll
anything.
see you
Bye
next
now.
time. Ryan, anything?
Yeah,
Always great.
I wanted to plug. I'm starting a knitting group, and I thought we would all sit around and like knit Sleuth's
No.
Corner sweatshirts or sweaters for next Christmas. So if
I'm
anybody is
gonna
interested
hard
in that,
pass that.
I think it's too late. I don't think we'll get there in time. I'll never finish a sweater in 11
Actually,
months.
subscribe to me, and I'll plug that. See how
okay,
many
I'll subscribe to you. But
yeah.
membership
Then
to
how
my
many knitting
club
group we
is
can get?
only $200 a month, and I will accommodate all requests.
All right. Good luck.
For sweaters.
Good luck. Anybody want to join Ryan's knitting group?
If anybody wants a personally knitted sweater, I'm only charging $50,000.
Knit around and find out.
That's right.
Great. Paul, always great to have you on.
Always
You're doing great work, dude.
I appreciate it.
Oh, show.
Yeah,
all
Paul,
right.
You don't get to have a club. You have to do more FOIAs.
All right. I'll work on that.
Actually, yeah, get to work. MB, it's been too long. Good talking to you.
I know.
All right, sweet. Jack, again, it was your day. Thanks for inspiring this. And we'll talk to all you guys later.
Later.
Take it easy, guys.
Later.